Okay. What is happening, everybody? It is Super Bowl Sunday. We've got the Chiefs taking on the Eagles, and it's a pick'em game. I mean, this is as close as it could possibly be on the spread. And for the next 2.5 hours here, we're going to give you guys everything you need to know to build some winning DFS lineups. We're giving out some bets along the way as well. So do me a favor while you're watching this. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And yeah, we talked about this a little bit in the last few days, but did the show in the afternoon today as opposed to leading up to lock like we normally do with our live before lock shows. But mostly because we know a lot of you guys probably have plans today, going to be out, going to parties, have people coming over, whatever it may be. So we just wanted to make sure that there was as much time as possible for everybody to watch this content. So if you're not available later on the day, you can watch it now, but still, because, you know, it's YouTube, the videos still exist on the internet. So if you do want to watch it in a couple of hours, well, hello, if you're watching this later on in the day, we have that as an available option for you as well. So hopefully this is going to make the show as accessible to everybody as possible. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. And we're going to start building some lineups here. I'm going to be on for the next 30 minutes. Then we've got Lofty and Ben doing the deep dive. They're going to be doing their thing. They'll walk through all the injuries. They're often going to be giving out some bets. And then finally, we're going to have Matt Kajeski and Eric Lindquist going over all their exposures and any of the other final takes they have for the game and answering your guys' questions. So let's go ahead and start looking at the slate. Here, we're going to build out lineups for DraftKings and FanDuel. If you guys have any questions for me at all as you go here, throw them into the YouTube chat. If you are a Stokastic sub, hit me up in the Discord channel because I'll be on the lookout for any messages that you guys have. Also, kind of curious, Jordan, if you could put a poll up for this in the YouTube chat, because I think this would be kind of fun. Who do you guys think wins today, Eagles or the Chiefs? Like we said, this is as tight as a game could possibly be lined. I want to know who you guys are picking to win, Eagles or Chiefs. Put a poll up there and see which way it is that you guys are voting. And yeah, for people asking about captains, leverage captains, we'll do a bunch of different builds here. This is going to be, you know, we'll look at DraftKings, we'll look at FanDuel. There's only so many different players that we could possibly be looking at here. So I think we could try out all different kinds of builds while we are on the show here. But let's start looking just first at some of the player projections. And then also, Jordan, you get a second, put that poll up. Who do you guys think wins, the Eagles or the Chiefs today? I'm going to lean a little bit towards the Chiefs for myself, but I am very unconfident who I think the winner is going to be today. If we start here, let's also just sort by some of the positions. If we'll look at the projections, if you could you pull up the data tab, Jordan? And then we just look at some of the, if not, it's okay. Yeah, go to the data hub. All right. Yeah, just to give people an overview of where it is that we're projecting players and the ownership and all that. I think we just run through everything right here, starting with the quarterbacks. You just press quarterback. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, so at quarterback, I mean, there's only 2 of them here. Don't play backup quarterbacks today. I know that's something that people like to do on occasion. Don't do it. We've got Patrick Mahomes projected for 21.38 fantasy points. We've got Jalen Hurts at 18.79. So Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be the better option of the 2 according to our data, because not only is he projected for 2.5 more fantasy points, he's also cheaper, and the ownership kind of comparable between the 2 of them. You'll see overall ownership for Patrick Mahomes, 52%. For Jalen Hurts, it's 47.5%. Patrick Mahomes is a little bit more popular in the captain spot, but on the whole, Mahomes is only slightly more popular than Jalen Hurts. And based on what our projections are, it looks like Hurts should be a little bit less popular. Mahomes a little bit more popular. So running backs next. Yeah, and as far as running backs are concerned, yeah, surprise. Saquon Barkley, the highest projected running back on the slate. We've got him for 21 fantasy points, and nobody else even projected for double-digit fantasy points, because we've got the split backfield between Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. It's leaned a little bit more towards Hunt for a while now. And I mean, somebody who wasn't even in consideration in the Chiefs backfield a few months ago, Pacheco gets hurt. Kareem Hunt has to end up joining the fold. And then he played well enough to where he just kind of held the lead back role. So we've got Kareem Hunt projected for nearly twice as many fantasy points as Isaiah Pacheco. Kareem Hunt projected for 20% ownership. Pacheco in at 8.5% ownership. Samaje Perine, potential viable punt option, 2.71 fantasy point projection for him at $1,200, pulling some ownership at 11%. Nothing crazy there, but he is somebody who at least we have to consider some of the punt options. And when there's only so many of them to look at on the slate, Samaje Perine, he's somebody who comes into consideration. Now, if we go ahead, let's just click on tight ends next because it's next on the list. Yeah, so for the tight ends, both the tight ends projecting pretty well. We've got a nearly 17 fantasy point projection on Travis Kelce at 9K, pulling 35% ownership. Dallas Goedert, 12.3 fantasy points, projected for 33% ownership. As far as the other tight ends on the slate, the only other one with a meaningful projection, it's Noah Gray. We've got him in for 4 fantasy points at $2,800. So he's one of our other viable punt options for the slate, Noah Gray. So those are the tight ends. Now at wide receiver. Yeah, so the wide receivers, and something of note here, you'll notice that as far as the top end pass catchers go, we actually have Travis Kelce projected for more fantasy points than any of the wide receivers here. Kelce was projected for 16.82 fantasy points. We've got A.J. Brown just over 16. Xavier Worthy, he's the top wide receiver projected player for the Kansas City Chiefs at 14.76. Then Devonta Smith projected for 11.9 fantasy points. One thing that I find is really interesting about Devonta Smith, and it's something that Lofty and I have also looked at over the course of the week, him and I were talking about on our single lineup sim show, on our regular sim show on Friday, is that Devonta Smith has very comparable props to Dallas Goedert, but Dallas Goedert being $5,800 and Devonta Smith being $7,400, and the ownership also being similar between the two. Dallas Goedert looks like a much stronger option in our data than Devonta Smith does for that reason. Then if you look at the other wide receivers, Hollywood Brown, 9.84 fantasy points. Then a couple of other wide receivers potentially in the mix, 3.94 fantasy point projection for Juju Smith-Schuster, 3.43 for DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins only projected for 7% ownership. We got Juju at 16.84% ownership. Now the kickers, Jordan. Yeah, now as far as the kickers go, we've got Harrison Butker, 5K, 9.32 fantasy point projection. Jake Elliott at $4,800, 8.4 fantasy point projection. Kickers ownership 25 and 23%. These are my two favorite value options on the entire slate. I love looking at the kickers. It is so hard to find value in some of these Super Bowl showdown slates because it's the Super Bowl. What ends up happening is the top end players, they're not coming off the field. They're getting as many snaps and usage as they could possibly handle. So what does that mean? It means the top end guys look even better than they normally would. But then the low end guys, they look worse than they normally would because they're not getting the reps. All of it's going to the top end stud players. So then you're kind of left with like, okay, where are we going to find value? Where are we going to save money? And to me, that's just where I naturally land on some of the kickers here. So I'm going to be overweight to both of the kickers today. We start building out lineups here in a minute. I'm going to really try to prioritize getting them into builds. And now finally, the defenses who are projecting not really all that great for this game. 6 fantasy point projection for the Eagles, 5.79 for the Chiefs. Both of them with ownership projected in the teens. I'm not going to be prioritizing the defenses for today. Now, with that said, let's start by building out some DraftKings lineups. We'll go back and forth between DraftKings and FanDuel. But first, for DK, let's start with a chalk build. All right. And also, the ownership at captain, as we saw before, there's nobody crazy popular. The most popular captain was Patrick Mahomes at about 17% ownership. I like Mahomes and Barkley the most overall in the captain spot. Let's start with a Barkley one and see what this is going to do to our salary and the sim ROIs here as well. So we'll start with a Barkley lineup. All right, we'll go Barkley in the captain. And now let's go both kickers. Let's put in Butker as well as Jake Elliott. I want to see what this looks like. All right, Butker and Jake Elliott. $7,400 left. Let's still go with Mahomes in this lineup. I'm just going to start with a pretty chalky one. All right, so now we've got to get a pass catcher in here. What do we have? A final 2 spots there. What is the average salary left for them, Jordan? All right, so if we got 6,100 left, let's see, who's somebody cheaper that we could go to here? All right, to make this a little contrarian, let's plug in Juju at 2K. That'll save us some salary as well. And then who can we just fit in that projects best now? All right, so let's go to Kelce. Leaves a bunch of salary on the table. I don't have an issue with that. It's the easiest way to try to minimize the dupes that you have is to leave some salary on the table. Go 25. What is go 20% to first. Yeah, it's a little bit less top heavy. It's a $5 million big prize pool today. $5 million prize pool on DraftKings, 1 million of it going to first. All right, this came out looking pretty good. 50.9% sim ROI. This was a lineup with Barkley in the captain there. And then also one where it's going to be at least, we had Juju. That makes it a little bit different. We left $1,200 in salary on the table. That's also going to make it a little bit different looking. So we were able to fit in overall, some chalk options and players that we like, but still it was unique enough to where it ended up having a pretty high sim ROI. All right, let's try making a little bit more of a contrarian lineup in the captain spot. I want to see what we could do if we go cheap in the captain. And if I'm looking to go cheap at captain, the guy that I like the most relative to their salary and the ownership, I like getting Dallas Goedert into some of these lineups. I don't really like going crazy cheap here in terms of I don't think like a Samaje Perine is necessary to go that cheap for today. But if you're looking at somebody who, $8,700 in the captain spot, Dallas Goedert, I think that's a reasonable way to go. And then if you get Dallas Goedert in the captain, let's see, can we fit Mahomes, Barkley, and Kelsey all into this lineup? I want to see if that's doable. Okay. So we got Barkley, Mahomes, and Kelsey. Then 5150. Let's go Hollywood Brown. I think we could go Hollywood Brown and Jake Elliott, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. All right. So let's see what a lineup looks like when I go to a little bit more of a cost-saving option at captain, and then also, still here, we're using, this one ended up looking quite a bit better than the last lineup, actually. 104% sim ROI, even though we're using most of the salary cap here, but still different looking lineup, and just running my stuff through the sims before. This is the lower owned captain. We've only got 6% captain ownership going to Dallas Goedert. I came in well overweight to the field on him. So this is a sort of build that I do like if we're going to go a little bit cheaper. But let's just try. I don't think this is going to sim out well, but I think it's worth the experiment, Jordan. Let's go to, let's see. Let's try one with Noah Gray in the captain spot. Just trying to find somebody who's cheap, who's viable for the slate, that would save some salary. And now we could go with a ton of studs. Let's go Mahomes. Let's go Hurts. Let's go Kelsey and Barkley. Fitting all of them in. Then what does that give us left? Okay. And then who projects best there? All right. Just go with it. We could try swapping out the Eagles defense and making some little adjustments. Yeah, this did not come out looking all that good. What if we take out the Eagles defense? And then on the high end, let's see. Change Kelsey out, or actually, no, leave Kelsey. Let's go from, let's go from Kelsey to Worthy. If we go Worthy instead, and now who projects the best? All right, let's try this. Let's see if this looks any better. Like I said, I don't really like the defenses in this game. I don't get to them in the sim, so maybe swapping the defenses out will make a difference. Not really. Negative 31.3% sim ROI. Okay. So there's a kind of different looking builds that we could do for DraftKings. We'll look at some FanDuel ones in a second as well, but also want to let you guys know before we get to that, today is the final day of our Portfolio EV sale. We've been running one for Super Bowl week. The promo code SB75 NFL. It's coming to a close today, but we've got NBA going on. We've got NHL going on, and the tools have been crushing. We've got a ton of testimonials from our subs, and if you guys want to try out these tools for yourself, it is 75% off. This is the absolute last chance to take advantage of this discount. The promo code is SB75. The link is down below in the YouTube description box. If you guys are looking for a new way to invest your money and to bet post-NFL, this is the best way you could do it. Take advantage of the tools we have on the site. They're really easy to use. We have a bunch of tutorials. So if you want to know how it is that we're using it, or how to build out a portfolio. We've got those right up on the screen. And then also we've got a lot of other content that's been going out around Portfolio EV. Lofty and I have a new show that we're starting up tomorrow. Lofty's been doing his snipe sessions over on Twitter. That's also been really good insight into how he uses the tools and places those bets in real time. So if you guys have any questions at all, my DMs are open on Twitter. Hit me up and ask me about them. But take advantage of this deal while it's available. SB75, get yourself 75% off. All right, let's hop over to FanDuel now, Jordan. And FanDuel is inherently going to be different than DraftKings because there's no need at all to go super cheap on FanDuel. There's just no advantage game in the multiplier spot because there's no change in what the salary. I don't need to explain to you guys how the rules work. You know what it is. But the point being here, I only view a few players as being viable MVPs on FanDuel. Mahomes, Hurts, Barkley, Kelsey, and then, yeah, if you want to take a shot on like AJ Brown or something, that's all well and good, but there's no need to go to like a Noah Gray or a Xavier Worthy. Well, I guess you could take a shot on Xavier Worthy, but like kickers wouldn't do it. Hollywood Brown wouldn't do that. So more so on FanDuel, here's what I want my focus to be. I don't want to be getting crazy different at the captain spot. I definitely want to leave salary on the table and maybe find one or so contrarian players. Because if you are going to just go to, Barkley or Mahomes or Hurts in the MVP spot, and then you're just going to play the other reasonable options and use all of the salary, sure, that lineup's going to project better from a fantasy point standpoint than in a lot of other lineups, but it's also going to be duped like 1,000 times. So with that in mind, let's start here by, we'll go with the Mahomes captain lineup to start. All right, we'll go with Mahomes. And now, once again, we're going to leave salary on the table. I really want to prioritize leaving salary on the table on FanDuel. Let's go both of the kickers. Yeah, so we'll go Butker and Elliott. That gives us a bunch of salary here. So let's also go to Barkley at 65 now. All right, so now if we sort by the highest projected player, Jordan, who are some of the top projected players that we have right there? Okay, let's go to Goddard instead. Just we're leaving salary on the table. If we plugged in Worthy there, yeah, once again, it's going to project better from a fantasy standpoint, but it's just a lineup that's inevitably going to be duped a ton of times. At least leaving the $1,500 in salary on the table, a little bit better of a chance to be unique. And the Sims just told me to go fuck myself. Negative 25.9% Sim ROI. Let's see. What happens if we use all the salary? Plug in Worthy instead. Maybe that one will come out better. This is also one of the reasons why for these single game slates, yeah, 59.5% Sim ROI, I really, really prefer DraftKings. It's so difficult to build good lineups that are unique on FanDuel. I find it much easier to do on DraftKings. But we'll carry on. We'll try to see what we can do to get unique. But even though, this lineup simmed out okay, but it's still a lineup that I think would be duped a ton of times. And it's not really what my priority is for building lineups on FanDuel. So let's see if there's a different way that we could get contrarian. Who are some of the lower owned players that are reasonable? We've got Kareem Hunt is only 15% owned. Hollywood Brown is 17% owned. Let's see. Who are some of the other ones? We could take a chance on Pacheco, who's 7% owned. All right, so let's start at captain. Let's do a Barkley lineup this time, Jordan. All right, so go Barkley. And we'll still go Mahomes in this one. And now for cheaper players, let's try to get in a couple of contrarian ones. Plug in Hollywood Brown at 9,500. Okay, and then let's also go to Kareem Hunt at 10,500. Actually, Kareem Hunt a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings just because the touchdown equity that Kareem Hunt has, it's more impactful on FanDuel with only the half-point PPR. All right. So now this is a somewhat contrarian lineup. We've got Kareem Hunt in here. We've also got Hollywood Brown, both sub 20% owned. So let's see what happens if we just plug in the top projected player here. I assume it's one of the kickers. All right. So put in Butker. Still leaving $500 in salary on the table. So that's nice. We didn't zero out the salary. That should help a little bit. Let's see. Is this going to... All right. 19.5% sim ROI. Still, it's positive. It's not like 100+% sim ROI or anything like that. All right. Let's reset. Let's see. What can we do? What can we do to build out a lineup that would rate out really well on FanDuel? All right. Just checking because I ran the Sims earlier. What are some of the players that I'm overweight to here? All right. So our data does like Mahomes the most at the captain spot for MVP on FanDuel. Let's try to build one that fades Barkley. Let's go both quarterbacks. We'll go Mahomes in the MVP spot and then Hurts in the flex spot. All right. Now let's go Butker. All right, 2 spots left. What is that? 11, a little over 11,000. Am I seeing that right? Okay. Now, who else do the Sims get me overweight to here? Let's see. If we go to... I think we could go both tight ends here. Let's try Goddard and Kelsey. Let's see what this does for us. Goddard and Kelsey. A lot of salary left on the table. Give us a good one. Okay. 37.7% sim ROI. I see Anthony Masilli says try a stars and scrubs. Yeah, we could try that on FanDuel as well. We could go to, let's see, who are some of the super cheap guys on FanDuel? None of them really look all that great. We could go, yeah, we could go Juju at 7K. We could go, all right, so let's try Mahomes in the MVP spot. But the stacking partners with Mahomes, let's go to Noah Gray at $7,500 and Juju at 7K. Let's see what this looks like. And then just Hurts and Barkley. So this is pretty stars and scrubs. Very stars and scrubs. I think it's just hard to build lineups that sim out really well on FanDuel for the Super Bowl. Yeah, negative 64% sim ROI. What if with the $1,500, can we upgrade? Let's see, who is... We can turn Elliott's 9K. Take a Juju and Noah Gray out. Oh, actually, we could do Elliott and Juju. Let's try Elliott and Elliott and Noah Gray. Noah Gray projects a little bit better than Juju. Let's see if that comes out better. Oh, 7K. Oh, okay, so then it has to be Juju. Juju 7K. Yeah. Vito Power says that's because FanDuel sucks, especially for a showdown slate. I honestly don't really love it for NFL. I like their NBA format where there's the multiple multiplier spots, but there's just so much overlap in some of these lineups that it does make it pretty... You're kind of left with a couple of options. Either you're playing a lineup that ends up getting dinged a little bit in the sim ROIs because it's duped a bunch, or you just go off the beaten path and you try to get really contrarian, and then you end up building out lineups that just don't end up rating out well at all. Let's try one other thing. Johnny Vegas says no NBA live. So because we had the Super Bowl and that's a little bit higher of a priority, Josh did an NBA show before this. So if you are looking for NBA content, it's up on the channel. But let's try one other thing on FanDuel, Jordan. Let's see what happens if we do go contrarian at the multiplier spot. Let's instead go to... Let's just try Goddard. Goddard's only 1% owned in the MVP spot. Let's see if we go Goddard and then go Mahomes and Hurts. All right. 11. 7-5 here. All right, so now plug in Kelsey. And then who projects the best of the rest of the guys? Goddard, I guess. Oh, right, I forgot. So who projects best now? All right, go Barkley instead of Kelsey. And then we'll see what that gets us. All right, let's see what this looks like. Another kind of stars and scrubs lineup. See if this does anything for us. Nope. Another crap one. All right. Let's try the Butker Kelsey combo. Over Barkley and Calcaterra. If we have a bunch of salary left here, we could upgrade Hurts to Barkley. All right, 1,500, and the difference between Hurts and Barkley is, oh wow, that's 3,000. All right, so we have to roll with this. See if we can make this one work. Negative 24.1% sim ROI. All right, Anthony Masili suggesting use a better KC stacking partner instead of Barkley or Hurts. We could try that. Take Hurts out. And instead of Hurts, try Worthy. And now, yeah, all right, run that. This is going to come out really poor, but we'll rerun it in a sec. This is going to be like a negative 71%. All right, so take out Butker and Kelsey. Let's see, can we get Barkley in? If we put Barkley in, who projects the best? 8K. All right. Yeah, just go Noah Gray. And then we'll try one with Hurts at the MVP spot. But we are drawn dead here trying to build good FanDuel lineups. It is so much easier to do over on DraftKings. We'll try one more for FanDuel. We'll try to make this a good one, and then we'll hand it over to Ben and Laffy here. Okay, let's go Jalen Hurts at the MVP. We'll pair him with Dallas Goedert. Okay, now put in Patrick Mahomes. And let's pair Mahomes with Kelsey. And what does that give us salary for? Try Kareem Hunt instead. Let's see how this one ends up looking. Big Chops asked, why is Ball still in projections? I believe he got rolled out 3 minutes ago. Hey, we did it. Positive sim ROI line. There's a good one to go out on. Yeah, Big Chops. Projections will be updated in probably like a minute or two. But the news on LaMelo Ball, because the projections get updated pretty quick, but it's not like instantaneous or anything like that. Yeah, we got the Hornets starting lineup 13 seconds ago. And then now that the starting lineup's out, projections will be updated, and then it'll be good to go shortly. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to sign up for our portfolio EV tools, SB75, link down below in the YouTube description box. Use that code. Get yourself 75% off. It's got another 2 hours of football coverage coming up, so stick here on the channel. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Good luck. Enjoy the game today. See you back here tomorrow.
I don't know what we're talking about.
What? Maybe. I don't know. I'm like 99% accurate.
Do what?
Like the trash can's all the way across the room. So if I finish a water bottle.
Oh, I don't remember that ever.
But I have form now.
Right? Yeah, you've grown. What can I say?
Second nature, muscle memory. Ooh. Anyway, hey, good. I guess it's afternoon, right? Yeah, 12:30. Last show of the season, at least for us. Then you got Greg and Eric coming, Eric and Matt coming up next. Take you till 2:30. Happy Super Bowl day. Not for me. What a shit show of a day, Ben. Not that you care to hear. Yeah, not that you care to hear about it, but my God, I mean, just the weekend. Friday, I come downstairs at 6 a.m. My 1-year-old walks up after drinking her milk, smiles, just pukes 4 times all over me. Like, all right, here we go. She's sick. I think it's neurovirus or something. And then she's just blowing diapers out for 2 straight days. That's worse than puke, in my opinion.
Not good. Not good.
Then fast forward to last night, my 3-year-old, almost 4, is like, Dad, my stomach. We're doing Where's Waldo? Fun book for kids, but and
find them.
Yeah, there's there's 5 on each page. There's Waldo, there's a girl, there's a wizard, there's another guy.
How hard is that? Everywhere you look,
dude, these books are kind of tough.
Real challenging. Anyway, continue.
Anyway,
please.
It's like my stomach hurts. Leave it to my dumbass to be like, well, like, are you hungry or does it hurt her? She's like, I think I'm hungry. So I just start giving her food at like 8 o'clock. Yeah.
How much snow did you get?
I think it was, what's that?
How much? Well, I want to know how much snow, and then we'll talk some football.
Well, I said solid sheet of ice everywhere. And then I hear her start crying at 11:30, and I'm like, here we go. Just the most rancid smelling puke all over her bed. And then, to make matters worse, my wife in the middle of the night, not puking or anything, but gets sick. I think she has the flu. Ew. So we were supposed to host a Super Bowl party today, and the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl. Poor me, huh? No, I mean, I don't think that's happening. But she's like, we're canceling, right? I was like, let's give it a few hours. I was like, let's hold off as long as we can, and we'll see. I'm holding out hope, brother.
All right. Well, hopefully this turns it all around. Positive vibes only. So.
Oh, and I got crushed in betting yesterday too.
Oh, I mean, don't get me started. You used up all the complaint. February has been absolutely miserable for me. But you know what? It only takes one day, and there is no better day to turn it around than today. That's a fact.
Our friend Eitan, oh man, I could have reached through the phone to strangle that son of a bitch today. As much as I love him yesterday, it's like one game in of NBA, and he's like, dude, I'm getting hammered. I'm going to be down 15 units. I text him this morning. I was like, yeah, I got crushed. And he goes, yeah, I broke even. I'm like, fuck you, dude.
Yep.
Is there anything worse? Looking for the commiseration, right? And he's just like, nah, I actually ended up having a decent day.
Yeah, I know how that goes. But you know what? Like I said, it's been a dumpster fire. I'm focused. I'm here. Yeah, I'm ready.
The Super Bowl.
I feel good.
I even did some squares on DK.
Okay.
Bet the coin toss for my wife. She always enjoys that. So it's like, yeah, sure, let's dabble. Maybe the books will look at me kindly. And
account health. Smart.
Yeah, he'll see. But let's get into it. We got a big game, Super Bowl 59. I got all my entries in it. And I don't know where you're at. By the way, happy to have you guys with us. Hope you're having a good weekend. The better one than myself. I mean that, genuinely. Hit that thumbs up. Atone for your sins. Final time to do so for the football season. Appreciate you being with us all year, genuinely. And subscribe if you haven't done so yet. We have basketball content, NHL shows. Those guys do a great job, and there's not a lot of good NHL content out there. Baseball will be happening soon. You know it. So stick with us throughout the summer, heading into next football season. But yeah, it's a hell of a game. And I'm looking at all of this, looking at the contest, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm going to, like, I've been down here for a little bit now. I dropped my youngest one off at my in-laws. I don't know if I'm going to make any adjustments. I think my lineups might be set. How much can really change leading up until 6:30?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like when you sat down to do them. I've run a couple, and
The last 45 minutes, so it's recent. This wasn't like 3 days ago.
I mean, the game has been marinating for weeks. There's not injury. We're not waiting on Q tags. We're not waiting on anything. There's no weather, obviously. I think it's just if once you're good, you're good and you let it fly. And the beautiful thing, it's a blessing and a curse about a game like this. Anything, literally anything, in my opinion, could happen. The equity is so dispersed among so many different things. So you could reasonably build a 5-1 either direction and actually feel good about it.
Yeah, you could also build like a double kicker plus a defense lineup and go, hey, I could see that working.
Yep. Everything's on the table today.
I said it to Danny Burke on Wednesday. These type of matchups are difficult because there's no real clear way for a game to go. I think that's what you're saying, right? We're pretty
That's
much
exactly what I'm saying. There's not an obvious well, it might be different than we all expect. I don't know what anyone expects.
I know. And, there was earlier in the week, I didn't look at it today, but on Friday, there was reverse line movement on the total where, the money's pouring in and the bets are pouring in on the over, yet it crept down 1.5 Ben. Money moving to the line moved to the Eagles a little bit too, but hasn't moved a ton. But the way I see it, it's like you have two teams that have very strong offenses. One of them may be a little bit more methodical than they were in the past, but they can score. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. They've won 2 straight Super Bowls, looking to win their third. The Eagles have a great offense. They look to run the ball, but they can throw when they need to. But on the other hand, both of these teams have really good defenses. So I had said to Danny when he was leaning under, it's like, look, I don't blame you, but if this ended up being, and I told you on Tuesday, I've been riding the fence on the total all last 2 weeks. I'm not betting the total because I have no good read on the total at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I think there's some, like any game, there's some correlation, I think, but you have to make sure on the betting side, and we're going to talk plenty about betting, that you're not paying for that. So we'll see. I think one of the main things for showdown and betting, one of the biggest questions I have is, can Kansas City run the ball at all? I don't think they're going to have massive success, but if they can't run at all, to me, that is a giant piece of the puzzle, not just for who wins the game, but how the optimal lineup might be.
Yeah, you would think so. It's just Mahomes' escapability is so much more impressive than anyone ever gives him credit for. Like, the guy can
lead them in rushing in a weird game.
Yep. He can get out of anything. I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm walking the dog and I was thinking about how like the Eagles didn't get to Mahomes at all 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. And if you remember, they had like a semi-generational pass rush. You remember that? Like the Hassan Reddick, Brandon, those guys. They had one of them. I think they may have had like second ever sacks in a season. And they didn't get to him once. They hardly pressured him. And then I was thinking, like, isn't it weird that like who is the last star player that you can remember getting hurt in a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly can't. Yeah.
No.
Somebody better not get hurt today. That'll send me into triple monkey tilt if I'm just out before this even starts.
But it's odd is all I'm saying.
Like, yeah, that is a fair point. I don't know.
I looked at it. I looked it up, the last like starting quarterback to get hurt outside of, I think it might have been like Bradshaw in Super Bowl 10 or whatever, where he came out with 3 minutes left. I don't count that.
Odell. Yeah. I barely remember that.
But Odell. Yeah. But quarterback, Super Bowl 5 is the last time it happened.
Well, yeah, hopefully we don't have to deal with any nonsense like that. Obviously, you can't really factor anything in. And for the most part, like, I thought there was a chance that Jalen Hurts' knee could have been a lingering story. Clearly, that was put to bed immediately. And there's really no injury concerns on either side.
All right, let's talk. I mentioned to you, I think I'm good. Is that, I mean, I feel like the more tinkering I do, the more trouble I'm going to get myself into.
That's pretty standard in general, Super Bowl or not.
I ran the Sims. I did make a few adjustments. A couple things I did out of the gate. I gave mini boosts to, and even if you guys aren't Sims users, it doesn't matter. You'll still understand kind of where the thinking comes from here. And I don't know where you are. We haven't talked since Tuesday. A lot changed as far as projections and ownership go, at least for our updates. I gave little boosts to guys like Justin Watson, DeAndre Hopkins' price point makes it really difficult, but I'm still getting like 5% of him just because it's the Chiefs. And I've seen what the Chiefs do in Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, where guys like Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman actually have viable roles in the end zone, in the red zone. So spots like that, I boosted just a tiny bit if I wasn't getting any of them in order just to get a little bit of them and not have the last thing I want to do is lose because I don't have any of one of these kind of not creative player Chiefs, but rotational Chiefs players that gets 2 targets and one of them's a 20-yard touchdown in a low scoring game.
And that's the Chiefs. I mean, how many times have we seen that time and time again? So it's no different than another showdown, but it's really just, I think, like drilling down into those concepts of, do you need to jam Noah Gray? No, but you can have him in the pool. You can have more nuanced positions. That's one of the many cornerstones behind what the Sims are doing and whatnot. That doesn't speak in absolutes, because anyone that speaks in absolutes doesn't know what they're talking about. Like, no one actually knows what's going to happen. There's a % chance that Justin Watson catches a touchdown today. It's pretty low, but it's not 0 either.
I'm smart. I'm laughing because
what's so funny about that? It's true.
Well, because I'm just kind of like recapping the season of deeper dives that you and I have done this year and thinking about the absolutes that have come from chat. And the one that, there was the one guy, the Ben doesn't watch football guy that was, what was the point he was trying to make?
On that Blake Corum was going to be taking over. Where's Blake Corum today? He's probably watching at the Super Bowl party like the rest of us.
And I don't think Blake Corum had a touch that game.
He was like borderline inactive.
But like that might have been if we went back and just kind of took like, because most of chat is generally pretty nuanced. And then a lot of times they'll say something and you go, well, you don't want to look at it that way. And they go, hey, good point. Right? Like usually you might just have people. DFS is a whole lot different than like a ball knower who's won his season-long league, right? Because so much of that stuff is irrelevant. But this guy was convinced that Blake Corum not only would get more work, but that Kyron Williams was now effectively out of the offense.
Yeah, dusty Kyron. But no, I mean, listen, that's where it comes down. I think if you have a read on a game, you want to make a stand. One of the equally dangerous is having no stand. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you just do nothing, you're just
a good point.
Bleeding to the rake. Like that doesn't help either. You need to go with something, but it doesn't mean you have to shove all in. Because with the Chiefs, I really think they've shown time and time again that they can chameleon their offense within a game. They may come out and try to run the ball and it may not work. And then they say, okay, let's go to quick passes. Let's get Worthy on these bubble screens. Let's get Hollywood Brown down the field. Or maybe they can run the ball and somehow Pacheco and Hunt have like 15 carries each. That's a scenario. I'd say it's unlikely, but it's not impossible.
It's not. And I will tell you, I have very little Isaiah Pacheco. I mean,
I bet him to score.
To the point where if Isaiah Pacheco finds the end zone twice, kiss it down. What's that?
I said, yeah, you can just log off.
With the way the day's going, inevitably the Eagles are going to lose.
I mean, the way February's going for me, I don't even know what could be. Somehow Washington's going to Jaden Daniels going to win the Super Bowl. The way I'm going, they're just going to teleport him into the game.
Can I just tell you that I spread, like exposures, or I guess you could say liabilities out in like 40 different spots tonight, just to hoping that it's one. And I'm not talking DFS. I'm talking just the game.
This is the last time I'll complain for the show, but I'll say this much. This is the type of week where I seriously considered betting heads and tails just so I could book a winner. And I could say, okay, we got one. I'll eat the juice. I don't even care. That's cashing a ticket.
Now you don't have to eat the juice. Books are giving it even money now.
Even better. Then if I can find plus 100 on both sides, I'm going to do that. Psychologically, that's worth its weight in gold for me right now.
Do it, man.
I'm gonna have to, and somehow it's gonna be like roulette. They're gonna introduce like green, the equivalent of green. It's gonna be.
Dude, it's just gonna land.
Yeah, it lands this way.
Like there's a small divot in the.
Don't even joke, because I'm telling you,
it's just gonna land upright.
Because it's not gonna be heads or tails. It's gonna be like commemorative coin. It's an eagle
Yeah.
or a Chief. And it's like, well, technically you didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Like you
Lovely.
bet, you somehow bet a three-way market and didn't know it on coin
Yep.
flip.
That's where we're at, friends. Okay.
Yeah. That's all right. Hey, maybe things will turn for us. Maybe you'll get one of those best ball lineups up top. I'm pulling for you. Couple people talking about Justin Watson. Yeah, did I not name Justin Watson? Because he's one. I gave like little boost to Watson, to Noah Gray, all of those guys just to get, by the way, Ben, primarily Kansas City side.
I think that's clearly the prudent move because, again, you never say never. But when you look at the Eagles, they are one of the most concentrated. Like they've got Saquon, they've got obviously Smith and Brown on the outside, and they've got Goddard. Jalen Hurts is a weapon in his own right, but they don't go to, if Dotson, Gainwell, and Calcaterra combined for one catch, that might be pushing it. I mean, who else is there?
Yeah. I know.
It's not a team for flyers.
That's a good idea. Noticing he said we need Kanye to perform at halftime. Yes, that
Smart.
I think he's trust. You could talk to him and say, like, just don't say anything wild, and he wouldn't. Have you seen his rants on Twitter?
I caught some of them somehow that's for me at this point. Interesting. But yeah, Kanye, I don't think's on the bingo. Who is performing at halftime?
I forget his name.
All right, I'll look forward
Kendrick
to that.
Lamar. I don't watch the halftime show usually. So
I just like to go on Twitter because within 5 minutes it'll say, "This is the best one of all time." And my God, this is the absolute who did this worst halftime show ever.
I think we can all agree probably the worst one, or at least in recent memory, The Weeknd. That was pretty rough, where he was in like some House of Mirrors shit. Yeah, it was also COVID. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, that was pretty rough.
That was rough.
Einsteinium. Hey, thanks for the support all season, man. Said Laffy, Dotson will be in the winner tonight. So here's the thing, Einstein. To me, is it crazy? No, but what's the path? No better person to talk about this than you, Ben, because like you tend to look at like how like can we thread the needle, right? And in the event like the Dotson does it, it's almost certainly going to be on one reception. Like it would have to be maybe a 2-target. Seriously, if I would ask you what would you set the odds that he has a 3-target game?
Yeah, low. Very low.
Like 7-1, 6-1?
Yeah, I was gonna say like 10%.
Okay. Yeah. So it's doable, but in something like that, I would think you're playing for a very low scoring game, or all of the highest scoring players go off and he allowed you to get there.
Yeah, it's just I don't really see a path to that. It's hard because it doesn't seem like to me a slate. I'll say this much. How about I go this way? If Dotson is in the optimal lineup, my feeling is it's going to be a gigantic chop, most likely. Because probably the reason that you're getting there is you jam Saquon at captain, and you also have Hurts, and then you just don't have that many combinations. So unless you're leaving a lot of money on the table, then you have a path. The problem there is now you're saying, okay, not only is Dotson going to have a good game, but raw points, he's going to outscore Hopkins and Gainwell and Noah Gray and the kickers, because you don't get a bonus for leaving 3,000 on the table. You just get the leverage of being different. So I just worry about that. To me, if I was going to take a like crazy flyers, even in that world, it wouldn't be him.
It's a tough spot to get to. Gerald said, someone on YouTube page said, you want to get different, pick a player that this guy did not mention. Dave Loughran giving you the obvious picks. So I said, who would you pick? He said, Watson. I don't know if I've even mentioned Hurts or Mahomes or Kelsey or any of the obvious yet. I think we started off talking about the cheapest, kind of lesser owned guys. Because I think in a slate like this, that's probably where you should be starting. Obviously, okay, my captain's exposure, from like the top five: Barkley, Mahomes, Hurts, Kelsey, Goddard, Brown. The one guy I have less of is actually Xavier Worthy. I don't have as much Xavier Worthy as I'd like, but as you said, you can't just get with the field on every player and then just lose to the rake. Right now, with the way I'm building, or at least with the way the Sims initially gave me, even me making some adjustments, I tested it out, tried to boost a little bit of Worthy to see what I got. He's still just not showing up as much as I would have thought. Massive contrast from earlier in the week before we, you know, refined the projections and ownership, where now I'm getting more Hurts and more AJ Brown and a lot more Eagles than I was when Greg and I did the Friday strategy show with the Sims.
That is interesting. I have not built yet. I anticipate getting to a healthy amount of Worthy. I just think that I bet him to score too at plus 155. They just get him the ball in space. He's a home run threat. He's a tough, if he's going to get 6-7 targets every game, I can live with that. So I'm fine with him. The guy that I'm most confused about what to do is Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt to me has several tough questions to answer. One is anyone going to be effective against the Eagles running the ball? If no, then is he able to get there purely on a pass catching role? And then there's also you never know, is Pirine and Pacheco taking enough where now Kareem Hunt is even drawing more, to a thinner margin? And so I worry about him, but he's been outstanding. I never anticipated in a million years he would hold on to that backfield, and he has. So credit to him.
I'd say it's more so that Pacheco has not been good than Kareem Hunt's been outstanding.
I think that's fair. Still, though, I honestly am really surprised. He had 17 carries against Buffalo.
Amazing, right?
Like, what? That's pretty nuts.
I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks still that Pacheco was not 100% healthy, and now he's had he's 2 more weeks removed from whatever was ailing it. It's odd to me. I don't know. I mean, just like the rational, logical side of me, which isn't much, it always looks at a spot like this and goes, well, they could have had Kareem Hunt. Like Kareem Hunt's a former Chief. He knows the offense. They could have brought him in and had him as the backup from the beginning of the season, but no, he was on the couch. And you don't bring him in until Isaiah Pacheco, who you really liked last year and clearly this year to start the season off before he got hurt. You bring him back because Isaiah Pacheco goes down. But now Pacheco, the guy, and granted, I know Pacheco is like a late round draft pick. This isn't some guy that had a ton of pedigree coming into the league. But you just you just out of nowhere prefer Kareem Hunt over Isaiah Pacheco? Doesn't that seem odd to you?
I mean, the whole thing seems odd, but the thing that's most alarming, it's not like Pacheco is slowly trending upwards, and it's like, oh, he's just maybe, not getting there as fast as I thought. He's not trending upwards at all. Like there's been no rhyme or reason for what's going on there. So I have to take them at somewhat face value. It's still the Chiefs. It is still the Chiefs, though. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's crazy to think that randomly Pacheco is more involved today, or I don't think it's crazy to think that both of them are involved and they employ some very interesting strategies.
At the end of the day, I'm getting to a lot more Kareem Hunt than I am Isaiah Pacheco, and I don't really know what I can do to change that.
I might be under on both.
I have only 16% Kareem Hunt. I don't have any Kareem Hunt at captain. I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I have 2 lineups with Kareem Hunt at captain. So this will probably have a lot to do with how things go for me tonight. If the running backs have heavy involvement, particularly Pacheco, like if this guy just ends up having 15 touches and 3 receptions and breaks one and scores, that could be a long day for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like you mentioned, there are no possible ways to cover all the bases, particularly on the Chiefs side. I mean, we've got, to me, I like to put them in tiers. I think Kelsey and Worthy are clearly going to be involved. Then you've got Hollywood Brown, Kareem Hunt, guys like that are, I know they're going to be out there. They're going to have opportunities. their range of outcomes is, Hollywood Brown was goose egg just a couple weeks ago. Then you've got Hopkins, Juju, Noah Gray, Justin Watson, P. Ryan, Pacheco as guys that may have one or two opportunities. And if they connect on one, they could be the salary saver. Oh, yeah. And then it's showdown. So what about the kickers, who I think are being perpetually undervalued
in a dome game? We'll get two
defenses
good
that can stand up.
What if this game's just played between the 20s?
I think that is
Very
with everything. It's not even about what you think. It's about what you think versus what everybody else thinks. So like, I'm not even saying I love that thought process, but I'm pretty sure I am far more in the camp that that's likely to happen than everybody else.
Yep. Machine learning. Only way I see Pacheco getting there is through increased receptions due to high Eagles blitz frequency. The Eagles do not blitz a lot. Eagles don't have a high blitz frequency.
I'll be interested though if they get there. I'll split the difference in the sense if they get there quick, like Will Mahomes he's been unbelievable at that of just you snap it, you catch it, you throw it.
Definitely, but that's different than a blitz where you're sending
100%.
an additional guy.
Oh yeah, but that's the key. If the Eagles can get pressure with 4, I mean, that's the best. That's the key.
Yeah. BKGJ says, spend 300 at captain, thank me later. Yes, I'll get right on. Who would you propose at 300? I mean, while I vehemently disagree with that statement, and I don't think anyone will be thanking you later, it does actually pose a pretty good question. Are there guys?
No.
Not the 3K at captain, but are there guys in the 200? The only guy that I could think of would be like a Peyton Hendershot gets a push pass at the goal line or some weird shit that they do in Kansas City. There's nobody down there that, Nico Remigio. Okay.
That would be the one guy. There's no chance, 0% chance that I play him. He would be the only guy because you could play him and you could play the Chiefs defense and you could hope that he breaks a kickoff for a touchdown.
Yep.
That's the only way.
That would be it. Special teamer.
But he's still only giving you, again, then you need to pay up options to get there, which they might, but that is a crazy. If you're going to do that, go to the window and bet him to score.
Sure.
Just do that. Don't worry about the lineup. Just bet him to score. You'll get a massive payout.
I have a question for you. And I asked Greg on Friday. Jake DeWitt actually asked this, I think, on Wednesday or Friday and got the wheels turning for me just as far as like us talking through this. How much influence do you think, I hate to say like public entries, but let's say casual entries. How much influence do you think that plays on ownership and roster construction? Like, do you think you see significantly more lineups that play the cheap guy at captain so they can get the 5 expensive guys in the flex spot? Do you think ownership is significantly affected by this, or are the field sizes just too big to where it's negligible?
I think it's more the latter. It's also dependent on the contest. Like, there will be plenty of people in some of the lower dollar things that will do some of that, but I actually don't think a mindset like that is what they would do. To me, it will inflate Saquon's captain ownership because they're just like, oh, Saquon, he's the best player. I'll put him at captain. And then they just fill in. When I picture someone very casual building a lineup, I picture them just literally starting at the top, clicking in, and then seeing, oh, I need a cheap guy. And then they go to the bottom and they take the cheap guy at the end, not the other way around.
For sure. Yeah, you're right.
No one's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? Let me start with Peyton Hendershot so I can allocate my money better. They're just like, oh, okay, I have to pick a captain. I'll go with Saquon. Like, then I'll take a quarterback. Then I'll take receivers. Oh, I'm out of money. Let me take 2 cheap guys.
Yeah, right. It's really the same thing if you think about it as like a main slate build. If a casual playing a main slate build, they get all the guys they want, and then they'll plug the defense last and the value play last.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right. So yeah. But I think there's also a large contingency of people out there that are going to try the problem with the value captain is, do you think in a spot like this on this slate, it funnels a lot of people into the same builds?
100%. Because you're paying. There's so many high octane superstars. The appeal to go and get extra is really there. The problem is you usually come close to zeroing out, and if you're not leaving money on the table, it just runs into a lot of problems. I also don't think there's that many pure paydown options that have a lot of volatility. Like mid-tier, sure. True cheapies, like I don't. Kenneth Gainwell to me has no chance to be the optimal captain. He just doesn't. Like you never say never, but I mean, come on.
So Barkley first snap
I
injury.
was going to say that's why I have to. The way I'm going, I'm not even putting absolutes on anything anymore. Like
Yeah, careful, pal. Gainwell's
it's just like, oh, he's had quarterback now. He can do it all. Like, wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any kicker at captain?
Yes. Not a
That-
ton. Not a
That to
ton.
me is interesting.
But I have combined 6% kicker at captain, which is not nothing.
Only takes a couple shares.
But I also have a lot of kicker in the flex. Like I have 34% Harrison Butker and 30% Jake Elliott. I like the kickers today. Now, granted, the Sims are doing the work for me here. I'm making some manual adjustments, but I'm not overhauling the process. I'm still getting to a good amount of Butker and Elliott.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly, they're at that price point too, where a lot of the guys directly above them and below them aren't very good either. Like you get into the dead zone, the QB dead zone, right? Of all just like the Chris Oladokun and Carson Wentz and you name it. And then below that, I mean, really, how many of the good value players are below the kicker range? How many could you name that you look at and you go, boy, those guys look really good today?
That's to me kind of the drop dead zone. There are a couple playable players down there, Hopkins, like Juju, P. Ryan, Dotson that we've talked about. But to me, I'm not planning on building with cheap captains like that. There's just too many mid-range captains that I don't think, that we talked about this on Tuesday, Devonta Smith types, that big time players that are not going to get a ton of love for captain. And honestly, it's always good timing with Goody, friend of the show all year. And he's talking about like some of the medium stakes single entries with, thousands of people, but not hundreds of thousands of people. To me, this is a perfect example of like, I don't think you need to get crazy in a tournament like that. I really don't.
What does getting crazy look like?
Well, I think there's just, again, a mentality where it's like, I have to, like I have to find a $200 player, or I have to find like, yes, if you can find that and hit it, sure, more power to you. But to me, like, okay, I'm just going to have a weird correlation. I'm going to have Goddard at captain, but no Jalen Hurts and something like that. Or I'm going to have, I don't know, there's a million ways to have 6 players that you feel have really good roles. It's just the way you organize them is a little different. And to me, that's much better to find your leverage that way than to take someone that's not on the field for 95% of the game.
Really, at the end of the day, the craziest I'm getting, and this is not, crazy by any stretch, the craziest I'm getting is just giving some dirt cheap Chiefs players a slight boost so I can get trace amounts of them. That's the one spot where, am I taking a stand? No, obviously not. But also, I've just seen this too many times and in big games from the Kansas City Chiefs. They spread you want to know the perfect, like, you want to know what epitomizes this whole thought process? If you go and look at receptions, right? You can take over under on receptions, team receptions for the Chiefs and the Eagles today. The Eagles are at 5.5. The Chiefs are at 8.5. It's a very big difference.
5.5?
Maybe it's 6.5. I'll pull it up again.
I feel like it should be 4.5.
No, you can't, because Barkley, Goddard.
At 5.5, I would go under. That's all I'm saying.
I thought about that, and then I started looking back, and there's just like these strange things. Let me pull it up. Maybe no, there's no way it's 4.5.
I mean, 4.5 would definitely be juiced to the over because the over is more likely to cash there. But I'm telling you this: if it's 5.5 with a decent number on that under, I'm gonna find that.
I'll try and see if I can find it now. But I mean, okay, so the 4 guarantees, and I'll throw Barkley in there. I think it's
Oh,
realistic
100%.
that you have Barkley, Goddard, Brown, and Smith.
Yeah. But who's fifth? Gainwell?
Well, you have Gainwell, you have Dotson, you have Calcaterra.
Yeah. If you said, what are the chances that 2 of those 3 have at least 1 reception? I would say not over, again, if you give me anywhere near plus money on that, I would take it.
I could see that, yeah. But again, what I'm getting at is that the Chiefs are at 8.5.
That
What a
just
big
speaks to it.
difference.
Yep. We had a question from Chad. Can you briefly talk about strategy for building in single entry versus MME? It's not that much different. Like, you're just making a lineup. The only thing is that when you play single entry, every share is 100%. So there's no nuance in the tournament. You can't take a piece of it's all or nothing. So I think the way I always look at single entry, it's counterintuitive. Everybody has the mindset in single entry of I only have 1 lineup, so I can't screw it up. Like, I can't do something crazy. So I actually think single entry is a good time to roll the dice a little bit. You don't need to be stupid leveraged, but that's, you know what I mean, Laffy? Say I told you could play 100 lineups today, right? You're not going to play Saquon in every lineup. You're just not. You could take 70% of them and 30 lineups don't have them. If I said to you only have 1 lineup today, you're probably like, well, shit, my whole day comes down to this 1 lineup. I probably want to use Saquon. Like, everyone thinks that in single entry, and it makes them a little overowned, in my opinion.
Yeah. Although, man, it's just like it's tough to get away from Saquon.
That's what I mean. It's not wrong. It's just the mentality when you have 20 lineups, 50 lineups, you're like, okay, I can throw Noah Gray on 2 lineups, and I know even if they are awful, my day isn't over. When you're talking single entry, you don't have that luxury. So I think most people are more prone to saying,
definitely,
let me stay in my lane. And you can exploit that if you're willing to look like an absolute stooge, which you should be. That's the name of the game. You have to take shots.
I found it. God, is it difficult to find props when you're
oh my God. Yeah, it's impossible because it's like, how many South American mammals will run on the field? And I'm like, all I want is a receptions prop.
That's
like,
it.
Will there be a natural disaster in the 3rd quarter? Yeah, like, I don't know. Just, again, anytime touchdowns, where are they on FanDuel? I can't find them.
Yeah, it's tough. They need like a more intuitive search option where you can just type in. They kind of have that, but it doesn't always work.
And it's by state. So that's the other thing. I'll be like, someone will be like, what are your odds for? And it's like, oh, I don't even have that in New York. So
you want to know where it's super easy to find a lot of good bets with a true edge and historical profitability? Portfolio EV, baby. That's right. If you haven't checked it out, today's the last day. We're running a promo, a good one too. Not some like 10% off. And look on the screen too, because January was such a ridiculous month for portfolio, particularly new portfolio EV users who used, my guess, Ben, they used a Christmas promo. They signed up. They said, I'll give it a shot. And they poured in on February 1st. We got so many of these. And I get DMs on this every day where it's like, yo, I started off a little slow. You were right. And now I'm crushing it. And it's helping me buoy the DFS losses. Like these are only some of them too. Go to the Stokastic Hall of Fame Twitter. They're everywhere. Or I'm sorry, OddsShopper Hall of Fame Twitter. 75% off. Last day if you want to grab it. The entirety of the month is 75% off. That's less than $25 for the month. I place every bet from my phone. You guys know that with the mass entry tool, or just click bet. It auto loads every bet straight into your bet slip. And some books now auto load what the recommended bet size is using our bankroll tracker and our bankroll manager. We have the bet tracker, which shows you exactly how well you're doing in every market, every prop within any sport in a market, shows you what type of line value or odds movement you're getting on every single bet every day as it instantly updates by the second. I can't say more about it, man. If you get more good things about it, if you haven't checked it out, SB75. So the link's in the chat. Link is in the description. Use either one of those. Link in the chat, link in the description. SB75, 75% off at checkout. Just use that at checkout. Get 75% off the whole month. Build your portfolios. Get locked into these sports. We got baseball coming up soon. WNBA is going to be here before we know it. You don't have to watch it. Our tools have crushed WNBA. That's why I mention it. And they're crushing NBA and NHL too. That's all I can say, Ben. It's a great tool. I love it.
Yeah, and listen, this isn't going away. I said this on my video this morning. This is the future. Like, this is something, in DFS, we're all watching the show, ownership projections, sims now. It's almost second nature. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, if you were doing some of this stuff, you want to know like who the best players were at that time. They were people who had the forward thinking to use these type of tools first. And in betting, it's the same way. In a couple years or 6 months, I don't know when, everyone is going to be using variations of Portfolio EV, I promise you, because it's the future. It's using the books to formulate true odds and expose edges for all of us. Get in while it's really primed. You always want to be ahead of the curve, I'm telling you. And again, if you don't believe us, go check out users. The testimonials have been unbelievable. It's so validating to see people who said, I've never bet like this before. I gave it a shot. My first week, I was break even. I was down. I stuck with it. And now I'm seeing those returns and I'm able to play a little more in DFS. I'm able to do a couple extra things on my own bets. That's what it's all about. So again, last day to do it. Get in Discord when you do. And honestly, just join us.
It's like the Sims. People were using Sims before they existed and they were crushing.
That's what I mean. Once the secret's out and I'm telling you this is the future, sure, you can, of course, join, but the books are going, it's a constant chess match. We're ahead of the books in these areas, and they're gonna evolve, and then we're gonna evolve. That's how you have to do. You have to stay ahead. If not, you have no edge.
Yeah, damn right. Anyway, SB75 at checkout. Links down there. And if you have questions, my DMs are always open. Happy to help out. Any of you guys know, if you hit me up, I always respond, even if it takes a couple days. Hey, where are you going as far as exposures for the stud players? I think I gave you a decent amount of what I'm doing, where at captain, I don't have any big stands at captain. My biggest would probably be that I'm not getting to a lot of Xavier Worthy at captain. And then I just have like high single digit, low double digits of guys like Goddard, Brown, Devontae, and stuff like that. But at flex, I'm getting a lot of Dallas Goddard right now. I have 42% Dallas Goddard. That price tag, though, it's tough to get away from. And I'm not even that much over the field. If we have him at 33% at flex.
I mean, it's hard not to like him. He's been arguably been a focal point of that offense. Obviously Saquon, but I get it. I'm going to probably be overweight on the field there. What I'm struggling with is like how much, and again, I'll let the tools do a lot of this work. How much like Mahomes captain do I want? Hurts is interesting because he can isolate his points with a couple of rushing touchdowns, but like Mahomes, what would that look like? And do I want to do that?
Yeah, it's funny you'd say that because I actually brought him down a little bit.
I think I'm not saying I'm going to have none, but I don't think that's my favorite build.
I brought him down a little bit. Nothing crazy. He's still one of my highest exposed captains. I didn't want to be running away with Mahomes exposure, though, a captain.
Neither do I.
Yeah, it's a tough game. But I am getting a lot more than I was on Friday, than I was on Wednesday. A lot more. At captain, guys like Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. Prior to that, I just wasn't. Like Jalen Hurts now, I think I have like 60 total percent Jalen Hurts. That might not sound like a lot, but it's more than I had earlier in the week. A.J. Brown, I've got around 50 total percent between flex and captain. So with some of these adjustments, some of these updates, and of course, you're using Vegas as guidance in some spots. That is going to make a difference. Jordan, do me a favor. Can you go to OddsShopper, go to the free live odds page and pull up, go to props, go to total receiving yards. I just want to see where we're at from where we were earlier in the week, because these things change like the wind. I wouldn't think they would have changed that much by now, but here's why I say this. Ben, if my exposures are that much different than they were earlier in the week, something changed.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not anything with the game that changed. It's just potential ownership, leverage, things like that. So I'm not surprised at that. And the markets will move. I don't think we're going to see drastic changes though.
They didn't much. I'm looking at them from where they were the other day. They really didn't change all that much.
Why
They're pretty
would they?
much right where they were. What's that?
I said, why would they realistically?
They of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like unless you think the public's moving the money, moving these numbers north, moving them up on some of these, but I cannot imagine that's the case here.
No, I'm looking.
These
right
have
now
these have been stable for like a week now.
Yeah, and they should be. Priorities on FanDuel. Honestly, it's not that much different for me. They're even more so. You can always go to the next tier, but I think it would be crazy to have like an absolute dumpster dive captain. To me, that's just not going to work in a game like this.
No chance. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
AJ Brown, Devontae Smith type, sure, but not, Noah Gray. That just can't happen.
Oh, Notorious Fantasy. What's up, Nick?
Hey, he's been having some good hits. I see it on Twitter,
DFS,
my man.
I saw that too. Rocking the avatar as well.
$500 free bet.
Yeah, you got a $500 free bet. By the way, make sure you're rocking that Stokastic avatar, stokastic.com/HOF. If you go download it, use it wherever it is you play, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and get some incredible stuff. We had people that, got well over $1,000 in rewards from us this year, and subs and the rings, but the subs just from winning like the dime package, like our subscription value, because they won bronze, silver, and gold was, and this is I'm not knocking it, but this is significantly more than the actual amount they won in the DFS contest. Cause it doesn't matter what contest you enter. As long as you're top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, don't chop with more than 2 people. You get bronze, then silver, then gold. Go to the page, check it out. And any win 20K plus, no matter field size, gets the beautiful custom ring in display case to commemorate your massive victory. And you can look at people when they come over for your Super Bowl party today and they say, man, that is beautiful. What is that? And you say, get out of my face. Get out. You don't get out of my face. You could never do what I did. Right?
Yeah, yell at them. That's what you want to do.
It makes you a different person, a better person. That's all I'm saying.
Different is the word I'd go for. It makes
really you a more powerful person. Say, buddy, fuck you.
Okay.
So I'm just asking a question.
Oh, you're still going. Okay. Get it all out there. Go ahead.
Would you go Chiefs money line? I think the Chiefs win. Or by the way, stokastic.com/HOF. Or Hurts and Saquon to score, parlay plus 198. How are you playing a free bet of 500? Do you look at this as like a really quality bankroll building opportunity, or like caution to the wind?
More caution to the wind. That's clearly the optimal way to do it is to try to get something that's got plus money attached to it, because you don't get the money for the bone. You get the profit. It's not like a normal bet where you get your stake back because it's a free bet. So like if you put it on, say, something that was minus 500 and you win, that's great, but you get literally $100 for that. That's it. You don't get your $500. At least that's how most books do it. If it's different there, then it wouldn't matter. But
yeah, the original stake is never included in the
That's what I mean. So you want to do something where you're getting a nice return, even though, of course, realistically, chances of winning are lower. But yes, that's what I would recommend. Go for plus money on something.
Yep. I'm with you.
I'm with you. Should have put it on Drickus last night, Nick, because that was as free could get. It was absurd. But.
All right. We had a comment from Einsteinium earlier too. It was a super chat that I forgot to mention. And stick around, guys. You got Eric and Matt coming up next, taking you up till 2:30. If you're wondering why we don't take this all the way up to lock, we never do on the Super Bowl. We're trying to give you enough time. Like people do shit today. So bringing it all the way up to 6:30 plus. You're not getting any viable injury news when inactives. Like it's just, it doesn't work like that. If we do, that'd be nuts. And there's probably a significant edge if something like that were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely would be, but it's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Exactly. Did you answer this one from Berkeley Boss? Thanks for the shows all year, fellas. What kind of max salary are you using for the big 150 max?
No, appreciate that.
I'm not doing anything to.
Neither am I.
Yeah, thank you though. Goody, you hit that. Einsteinium, yeah, here it is. Said with the Eagles being so run heavy all year, it leads me to believe the Eagles have a few pass plays in the they could use that'll work. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't. I think they do too. But you're kind of just, we're saying the same thing, Einsteinium, that if they do that, like the one play that's drawn up for Dotson has to work, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they've got 4 of them in their bag of tricks that are going to Jahan Dotson. You're not running the Philly special 3 times a game, right? Like with a lot of these guys, but this is the Chiefs too. Justin Watson likely, maybe even Juju Smith-Schuster, probably less likely, but like which other guys? Where you're talking one opportunity, maybe.
Yeah, Noah Gray, Justin Watson. It's one game, so anything can happen. Yeah, I'm doing 2 things at once here. I'm pulling up the props because I do think anytime touchdown scores are somewhat of an indication of that. Like you can use it again. Just go to OddsShopper. The live odds screens are completely free. You can use that to kind of gauge, okay, of these randos, what do the books think is the highest chance to spike one? Because realistically, you're mentioning, say, 1 or 2 targets. Even if you catch it, you have to probably find the touchdown to really factor in, unless you think for some reason like 4 points is going to get it done.
There's a promo on FanDuel, the $5 million FanDuel thing where it's like the first touchdown. So you bet an anytime touchdown, and if your guy scores the first touchdown, you split a share of 2.5 mil. If he scores the last touchdown, you split a 2.5 mil. If he scores both, you're splitting 5 mil. And then there's weird stuff where it's like, you can read into the rules. I won't bore you with all of the rules. But to me, I did it because the minimum bet for what it's is 9 cents. So you don't even have, so I just put it on like a wild long shot. Why would I do it on Barkley where 100,000 people are going to bet Barkley?
100%. It's a game theory question.
I was saying to our friend Andy Francis the other day, it's like tournament style in the sense of just getting different. So if you're doing that and you don't really need any skin in the game as far as what you have to get, not even like a minimum $10 bet, I think you just go fully off the wall.
Yeah. I honestly think that's where you could use the kickoff return guy.
Nico Remigio. Yeah.
Why not?
Well, you mean, think about it. How many people do you think take Nico Remigio? Let's just say he scored on an opening touchdown, and that's the first touchdown of the game.
I bet it's not that many people.
Like, do you think if you're chopping 2.5 mil between the people that bet Nico Remigio is that guy in that promo, do you think you'd have a pretty nice payout?
I think so. I mean, there's so many people, everyone's going to be covered, but certainly that's the type of move. We've seen this with DraftKings. They did the king of the court thing with the NBA, points, rebounds, assists. And there were some, and even in the NFL, and we saw a couple rando ones, and there were some nice payouts because of that. I think there was the Lad McConkey week. There was another random guy that caught a bomb. Maybe Curtis Samuel, I want to say, for the Bills. Yep, and it was a big payout. Samuel.
He had like 3 for 53 and a touchdown or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Wrap up some final thoughts here. By the way, appreciate it a lot for you guys hanging with us all season. It's been a great year.
A couple things. Einsteinium, in the Sims, how many dupes are you allowing? I don't have like a firm number. I don't know if you do.
I don't. I ran it on a 10,000 and I'm just like, let me see the lineups I'm getting. I don't like, for the most part, the lineups that I have here, because I am using the unique setting as well. My dupe count, I'm just scrolling now, is my dupe count on most of these is really low, if not nothing. Some of them are, don't get me wrong, some of them have dupes, but I'm not getting like the 10, 12, 15. If I sort by dupes just in the contest pool, the most duped in this one is 26. Now this is out of 10,000. So obviously, extrapolate, but 26. Yeah. None of the most duped lineups that I'm looking at are in my lineups. Oh, here's one. Here's one with 9. So out of all of my lineups, my most duped in the Sims is 9.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is, where are you placing the lineup, and I can deal with that. If it says, 75, obviously, like, unless you're putting that in the double ups or something, I I would be a little cautious. What else we got? Defenses, I'm somewhat indifferent. I will have some Eagles defense just because I think there's a chance that they can really get pressure, and pressure is what you're after, but that's about the extent of it. No major stand for me.
Berkeley said, with Sims, you should damn near only play 0 dupe lineups. The dupes are almost always going to be quite high. They're always going to be higher than estimated. Yeah, because we're running, it's a 10,000, it's a contest of 10,000. It's not, whatever this is.
340,000.
But I think if you're, say, playing 150 lineups and you're playing every lineup as a 0 dupe, you might get into some, no, you're going to get into some lineups that you don't love.
Yeah, it's a balance. I mean, you could play 0 dupes, just play 6 $200 guys, and you just automatically lose. Obviously, that's the most extreme example. You could play where you max out your salary and you have like 300 dupes. That's equally bad. So you want to find that balance, and there are still ways to limit the dupes. And you need to, because that is a huge equity kill. If you're duped with like 200 people, it is not what you want to do.
The worst is not that. You think that's bad. The worst is having the second best lineup behind the 200 dupe.
Oh my God. Yeah. Especially when it flips, it's like, if you're in first and then you legitimately lose it all.
Yeah. It happened to me this year. It happened to me.
Well, we're going to right all those wrongs. Chat, I've had a couple, honestly, if you ask me what my best ability was this entire season, it's predicting success for the Stokastic community on this show. I've been calling.
Aren't you 2 for 2?
2 for 2. I've called 2 milli winners. 2 milli winners. Today, we're righting the wrong somewhere. I don't know where it's going to be. Something between best ball and these monster contests. You're gonna see some screenshots later. I can tell you that. I feel real good about this.
Well, that's a fucking hell of a send-off, brother. It's been fun, man, all year. We have 18, 19, 20. It was 22, week 22.
Been awesome. And like I said, we won't. Yes, NFL is quieting down, but between everything we've got going on here at Stokastic and OddsShopper, you're going to be seeing plenty of us. I want to give you a special shout out. A, you host this show. You and Jordan, you do an amazing job. B, you've been doing a show on X every day, actually going through your process.
Having a lot of fun with that too.
It's been awesome. I've actually been watching it just for myself to see how are you placing these bets, because you've had a ton of success. So for anyone that is interested in the betting side, make sure you catch that on X every day. It's about 3 o'clock. Just placing bets in real time to learn how that works. So it's just been a good time all around.
Appreciate you. Turn notifications on Twitter. I don't tweet much anyway, so you won't be seeing much slop. Anyway, shout out to Jordan for producing all year. Shout out to Ben, best co-host I could ever ask for. And I mean it, man. I mean it. And to you guys, thanks. Without you, we don't do this shit. So check it 100%. Out. Eric, Matt, coming up next. Super Bowl 59 tonight. Heck of a season, fellas. We'll see you back here for the next one. I always hate when the season ends.
Okay. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Bowl edition, NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Stokastic and Portfolio EV. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist over on X. And I'm sad because this ends our boarding walk. This will be the last show of the 2024-25 NFL season, which was another memorable one because I got to spend every single Sunday with my friend Matt Gajeski, Matt_Gajeski over on X. Go give him a follow if you haven't already, but I'm sure you have for all of his college and NFL fixings. How you doing, my dude?
Doing great. Bittersweet day. Obviously very excited, but it's always a little bit sad when we lose football for the year, and then we have all summer to think about what's going on next year. But yeah, all in all, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm obviously bummed out as well. I'm going to throw lots of trivia your way. I'm going to bring up tons of pop culture for the next 55 minutes. So if you're listening to this after the fact, go ahead and keep notes. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Do you know that movie? Of course you don't. That is Bruce Almighty. Anyway, we've got ourselves a lot of fun coming up here in the next 54 minutes. 54 minutes, obviously. This is probably the show that people listen to the most after the fact, purely because Super Bowl doesn't start until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. But we'll get the actives and actives later down the line. If anything massive shows up, I'm happy to go over on X and fire it up. But I think we know the usual players. They're going to be the ones that we're stacking in our lineups the most. But Matt, what are you looking forward to most from a DFS perspective for the Super Bowl?
I guess from an inactives perspective, just making sure Gainwell plays, which everything the media reports, like this is the most reported on game of the year, suggests he will. So I don't think there's going to be anything crazy outside of the regular inactive stuff. I guess the thing I'm most looking forward to matchup-wise is just how Patrick Mahomes goes up against what I think is the best defense in the NFL. Can he actually use more of his wizardry that he basically does every single game? So that's honestly what I'm most excited for within the game.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm also terrified. I think that there's more things that I'm terrified of looking at my lineups right now and what's showing up in the Sims than anything else. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of cheapies we can talk about at the end of this program for sure. We're going to go position by position like we always do on this show. But as we get started, hit that like button, subscribe button if you haven't already. This is a great spot for the NBA streets. Soon, in a month and a half, it'll be the MLB streets as well. We'll be talking about it all from a DFS perspective on this channel. And if you enjoy this NFL content, well, I promise you, you'll love the NBA and the MLB as well. But I'm excited to do this one last time for the old Gipper, Matt. We got Jordan Klein along with us too. I should throw that in there too. Jordan Klein, the best producer in the game, named Jordan Klein. He's ready to rock. I'm ready to roll. Are you, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it, man.
Let's get into it. We start at the quarterback position, where obviously showdown. This is different than what we normally do because we normally at least have 4 quarterbacks like the AFC NFC championship game that we could parse through. Divisional round, wild card round, we had a number of different options to be able to go through. And then during the regular season, we have eternal amounts of options to roll through, but you get 2 and they're both pretty good. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, say what you want about Jalen Hurts' throwing acumen. He does a lot of stuff with his legs. And Patrick Mahomes starting to do stuff with his legs too. 7 and 11 rushing attempts the last 2. Pass volume been down. And then obviously he's a more willing runner in the old running department here during the playoff time. But I look at my lineups right now and I do have a stand on one of them in a very, very big way. I'm also vehemently against another one in a pretty pronounced way in the captain spot. Can you guess which direction I'm going with each of these?
I think you're playing more Mahomes than the field in captain, and you're playing less Hurts.
Correct. And it's terrifying.
I agree with you. Actually, to go right into the Mahomes thing, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the game theory stuff. As I was doing my prep for this show, first thing, I kind of do is just look at the projections, look at the ownership projections, get an idea of how I think things might shake out in the Sims, let it run, and then see what actually came up. So Mahomes, highest projected player on the slate. It's narrow between him and Saquon, but he's still the highest projected player. Highest owned player in captain and flex. So I was very curious, would the Sims lean into that or lean against it? And on first run, unencumbered, no adjustments, Patrick Mahomes did come out as my most owned captain by a decent margin. And then as I was going through all the lineups individually and just seeing how many options there were on this slate, I think the Sims kind of lean into that. I didn't see a lot of dupes, even with the Mahomes lineups. And when you look at these two teams, especially the Chiefs, with the receiver rotation, the two tight ends, multiple backs they use, you can build a lot of lineups that end up being unique, even if you lock in a chalky Mahomes, whether that's captain or flex. So I don't hate using him, even though he might have a little bit of sticker shock when you see he's the most owned player on the entire slate. I personally think there's actually a lot of unique ways you can build with him in your lineup.
I think there's a lot of unique ways too. And I also think about it from this standpoint. And it's just what's happened. I feel like all of these showdown slates with Saquon, he ends up more popular in the captain than we expect. Like this has been happening pretty routinely. And I look at the Kansas City side and it just feels as though when you look at captain ownership being sub 17% of Mahomes, and we've got him optimal as the most optimal captain there, right around 19%. It's fractional, but like there's a world where I see Barkley getting pushed up a little bit and Mahomes coming down a little bit. And maybe that's just the public sentiment. I mean, I look at the chat. We had, the question that popped up in the chat and YouTube chat where it's, who do you think wins this football game? And it's like 60% of people are clicking on the Eagles. We're also getting a ton of public money in things like the $3.20 max and in the Millie Maker, which are the ones I'm kind of focused on the most. But I do think that if the public sentiment pushes towards Philly, you're going to see Saquon, I think, a little bit higher than potentially than what we have projected. He's not cheap by any means. He's very difficult as far as like ways to get different. We're utilizing Saquon. I do think if they blow out Kansas City, which is unlikely, but I think Saquon's like almost like not a lock, but would look really, really probable of being up there in that captain spot. If the public is going to push Saquon and he's been paying everybody out every single week, I think Mahomes might end up being sneakier than you think, depending on what tournament you're playing in.
I agree with that. One thing just from sometimes I try to hand build a couple as I'm doing prep to see how the roster construction, the pricing dynamics work as a whole. I had a pretty easy time starting with one of the big three captains. So Mahomes, Saquon, and Hurts. Let's use Mahomes in this example. And then building a reasonable lineup around it. For example, just one I threw together before the show was Mahomes captain, Barkley, Hurts, and then Devontae Smith with 2 punts. Those were Juju and Noah Gray. So my question to you is, do you think that collective, that trio of Mahomes, Barkley, and Hurts could get a little more owned than we think as a grouping, and maybe we should be doing something at least to rule out all three of them in the larger field stuff, or at least be careful with how you're using those three together? Because I had a pretty easy time building that kind of lineup.
Let's jump over to the single lineup simulator. I think this is a great opportunity to utilize that. Obviously, we'll be utilizing it a lot in the NBA streets for single entry type contests. I utilize it all the time when I'm building out single entry contests, like on a Saturday when I don't have to be on a live before lock show. But I think this is a great opportunity to take a look at this. Let's click him into the captain right from the get-go. Patrick Mahomes up in the captain spot, and then you want to go Saquon and Hurts. I heard both of those as well. We have 4,200 left over. I heard Juju. Who are the other two?
It was Noah Gray and Devontae Smith. Basically, I've just been clicking buttons with the three studs and seeing how the lineups look with those in them. Because you can build about any combination you want with them.
Yeah, I'm almost more inclined to play Goddard and leave the salary, the 1,600 on the table. What is that, 2,000 that you'd get total? I kind of want to run that here. I'm running that on my side here while Jordan's also clicking that one entirely in. Kind of give you a little bit of a difference between the two. Negative simulated ROI for it here. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, I think, to be able to play all three of those in some kind of a unique way, because you're basically going the same two type punts. Like, that's what I get worried about is down here. It's the overlap of Juju and Noah Gray and what that does, because you basically have no path if those guys don't find a way into it. And I don't know. I feel like you're really threading a tight needle without Travis Kelce in this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted your opinion on, is how live and seeing like a negative simulated ROI could come from a number of things. Like this particular lineup might be more duplicated, or this sort of structure might be more duplicated. And that's what I was kind of worried about running all three together. And this applies largely to the big stuff, the big tournaments, your Millie Maker styles, that kind of field size.
Yep, I'm 100% with you, because yeah, we could go to the large contest as opposed to small contest. That's the fun thing about the Sims tool, is we have the way to build out 10,000 lineups at once. We can basically take that pool, we can find out your top ROI lineups, and we can also go to a single lineup simulator where we're able to see what changes you make to your lineup that are good or bad. And obviously, leaving salary on the table, it's more of a thing that is going to happen by default in the old pre-contest simulator as you're building things out. I don't really think about it too much anymore, because I think you go back and look at showdowns throughout the entire year, and you're just running into so many strong projections, and you're running into so many ways where it's okay to have more duplication now than what it maybe was 2 or 3 years ago. But even still, if you're going to be like really threading the same needle as everybody else, and you're jamming in like the main studs here, I find it hard to get different right now with what we have. Like, if you're going to do that in like a Millie Maker style, I think Jahan Dotson, Calcaterra, even Justin Watson, who can at least be out there and give himself an opportunity by running some routes. It's been less, it was better at the end of the regular season for him, but I think that those are kind of the guys where I would rather play with those 3 studs, simply so I'm avoiding what I think is going to be the same kind of build with Gray and Juju.
I agree with you. So then I think to move this back to the quarterback position, in the large field stuff, let's say you're just building like one lineup for the Millie Maker, I almost think I would rather play Mahomes and Hurts together and leave Saquon Barkley out of just one lineup. And it's nothing against Saquon Barkley. He's obviously the second highest projected player on the slate. Very easily could end up as the highest scorer on the slate too. But I agree with your sentiments that he might end up getting steamed a little bit with the public money and just Saquon Barkley winning Offensive Player of the Year and how good he's been this season. But when I look at him versus Hurts, I almost think Hurts is the safer player. He has all the tush-push equity. He's now another 2 weeks removed from the knee. He honestly didn't look limited by the knee very much in their last game, despite being 1 week removed from it. So the rushing's all there, and then him as a passer is still live. Yeah, it hasn't been great for most of the season. It's kind of nice to see him put his best game together in their most recent contest, but Hurts has more ways to get there than Saquon, in my opinion. So if that's going to come in a little less owned for the large field stuff, the Millie Maker stuff, I do like starting with Mahomes and Hurts together.
I absolutely love that too. And obviously my stance with Jalen Hurts ended up firing plus 375 at BetMGM for him to win MVP. I think it's a little bit asinine that we have Saquon sitting right around plus 200. I haven't seen what it is yet this morning, but for him to be $175 higher value to win MVP for the Eagles in this game than what you have with Jalen Hurts, who touches the ball every single possession, unless you're going to wildcat with Saquon, which I don't really think is in the cards, unless you're going to have Dallas Goedert with the tush push, which I very highly doubt as well. Like, Jalen Hurts is going to touch the ball every single time on offense, which he gets the first crack at it. And I think there'll be a little bit of college style stuff trying to get, this defense. I mean, Spagnuolo, this is kind of my big question for you from a rushing perspective. Well, I'll bring this over to Jalen Hurts now. Steve Spagnuolo, there's 2 rushing quarterbacks, only 2 that the Chiefs have really played all season long. It was week 1, Baltimore. They had Lamar Jackson go completely nutty against him. And then the only other one that really showed up throughout the entire year, they went to Buffalo, took on Josh Allen, and it didn't go very well for them either. Both of them just massively eclipsed their rushing props. And, what this 38.5 that I'm looking at here on the Jalen Hurts side, is Jalen Hurts potentially being unlocked in the running game the key to the Eagles winning this football game?
I think just one meta you see as these playoff games get deeper and deeper is these QBs that do have rushing ability, or maybe it's like Mahomes where it's not his best skill, but he can do it. They end up using it a little bit more. In the regular season, it's probably just like injury preservation, but when everything's on the line, more likely to scramble instead of throw the ball away. You see more design run calls. So yeah, I think it might even just be a volume thing. Maybe not the Chiefs struggling to defend it, but maybe you just see an extra rush attempt here and there for Hurts that aren't tush pushes, which just lead to a higher overall rushing output. I personally think the linebacker room can be exploited for the Chiefs. So I like this angle with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it's just the more that I look at it, the more I look at the odds board, it's like, how many times do the Eagles win and blow them out? Where Saquon's probably having a big day in a lot of those kind of capacities. But like, if this is a close game, which it's for all intents and purposes expected to be, Jalen Hurts having the ball and potentially leading a game-winning drive, making throws, doing things that, against a man coverage where A.J. Brown has been extremely effective. I think that there's paths for A.J. Brown to really, have a big game here relative to what we've had some of the previous weeks. Washington, I guess, was pretty good last week, but I look at Jalen Hurts as undervalued in the MVP market. I look at him as a little bit undervalued at 10-4 relative to what we have with Saquon Barkley. But as we round out the quarterback conversation, I want to jump over to FanDuel quickly because you've got Saquon at 16-5 over on FanDuel, and building out lineups before the show, man, oh man, I feel like I need to jump in and play some more FanDuel today because Mahomes sitting at 14K. I think this might be the spot where we really see Saquon steamed up because he is 2,500 higher. And I get it. Obviously, your rushing and touchdown equity matters so much for FanDuel scoring. But I look at Patrick Mahomes as somebody who, top scorer, 28.5% that we have there. Captain Optimal, 33%. We could see him really undervalued on FanDuel if people are just simply hand building, clicking on Saquon, and then going on with the rest of their lineups.
Yeah, I think it's almost the same conversation we just had, only juiced up a little bit. The price difference here is so drastic. Like, even just click around on FanDuel for a little bit. Take Saquon out of the lineup, see what you get. Put Saquon in at captain, see what you get. It's pretty drastic. Like, with Saquon in your lineup, you almost automatically have to punt. And it's very hard to play both QBs with him. If you just play Mahomes and Hurts together, not Saquon, you're literally getting 3 other studs. It's like I haven't built FanDuel yet, so I'm guessing that's going to come with increased duplication. But yeah, just on paper, the Saquon Barkley list lineups look a lot better on FanDuel.
Yep, and I'm going to run into a lot of them, it looks like, and build out some more after the show. Again, we're kind of blessed with this opportunity on Showdown on Super Bowl Sunday to build our lineups, a couple hours down the line. We don't have to be panicking here on Live Before Lock. Not that I ever panic. I am such a calming influence in these YouTube streets, Matt. Don't you feel that every single day with me?
Yeah, you and me, we've both never struggled to get our CSVs in on time.
It's never happened one time. I always get them uploaded, never throwing away hundreds of dollars for no reason. I would never do that.
Neither do I. Never have.
I'm an absolute donkey sometimes. But anyway, rounding out the quarterback conversation, building out one lineup, I think we both agree Patrick Mahomes, kind of the guy that we're going towards, because again, maybe public sentiment just, forgot about Dre, or you forgot that Patrick Mahomes is really good in spots like this. I think he's undervalued on both sites today.
I agree with that. I actually wanted to ask you about that, where you thought he would come in versus what we're projecting. Ownership wise. I can't make a case for Patrick Mahomes getting steamed up as much, because I do think people want to play the Saquon piece. He has treated everybody so well. And like, what was it? Last week, we just played 100% of him. There was kind of no thought into that process whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, Saquon's going to be optimal. He's been optimal like every round of the playoffs so far. He's been a wagon. He's been an absolute Matt Kajeski wagon. We got to see that picture one more time for the people, and then we'll figure out what the wagon is later. God, that's so beautiful. I'm not going to fade him, but he's not going to be my highest owned captain. I think the quarterbacks will be right up there with there. I'm debating him versus some of the elite pass catchers on this slate. It's for most of the reasons you mentioned. Saquon's an awesome play. If you were playing something small field, a single entry, I would highly consider playing him in the captain spot and just moving on with my life, figuring out the rest of my lineup from there. But in Millie Maker style stuff, large field stuff, that's where this gets more interesting and you can have the conversation. I imagine he'll be in my top 5 most owned captains, but he's going to be closer to 5 than 1.
Who is Saquon?
Yes.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. And we'll get to the running back position here in 2 seconds. We've got some super chats to get to. Jordan Klein, which was the last super chat that was read off on the last show? The Goody one. All right. Goody. Where is Goody? Awesome. Berkeley Boss, $5. Thank you for the shows all year, fellas. What kind of max salary are you using for the big 150 max? Well, I appreciate you, obviously. We love doing these shows. Matt and I have loved doing these shows together for 4 years now? We've done these 4 years together. in a row, and we haven't killed each other yet, which I think is I mean, we're winning.
We even were in person together one time and didn't kill each other.
We didn't. In fact, we just got schmammered. So that was fun. Yeah. What kind of max salary are you using for the big 150 max? I gotta say, there probably will be some 50,000. I'm not going to do anything in the Sims tool to really trim out the 50K. Once upon a time, and again, this comes from our good friend Neil Orfield. I don't want to take credit for it, but I mean, when he was building out lineups and really kind of getting granular with things, I always liked the idea of like starting and having no salaries above 49.5. I think what started to happen is that the salary structures changed a little bit. I think we've seen getting those raw points in a majority of the time and, getting to less of like the riffraff on the back half where, again, we'll talk about the Justin Watsons and the Peyton Hendershots of the world. We'll get to that today, but I think most of my lineups, a large majority of them, are not even going to be dealing with that range. And I think that as a result, we've just seen a lot of the field build more optimally in Showdown. And so I try not to eliminate dupes the same way that I used to. Matt, do you have anything that you do from a max salary perspective for the big 150?
In the Sims tool, I don't. I'm just going to talk about this two different ways. One, if you have the Sims tool, one, if you don't. With the Sims tool, like it's cute to make rules like no 4,900 and over, but you don't need to use those heuristics anymore. We literally have tools that predict dupes. And I'm looking at the full salary dupes right now in these lineups. There are a few more dupes with some of these lineups, but I'm still seeing plenty that are no dupes at all in a lot of them as well. So you don't need to use that heuristic anymore. Like one, you don't know if it's correct or not. On a slate like this with so many options, maybe it's not as duplicated at the top. And from there, if you are building just like one lineup by hand or something, I'm not going to say they all have 0 dupes. So if you just wanted to be careful and ensure yourself to probably walk into something that you're not going to split with as many people, you could probably go down to like 4.95. I'm comfortable going as low as 4.7 in some of these lineups. They're going to be a little more unique with higher win percentages, top 10 percentages, maybe lower cash percentages. But on the low end, probably not going below 4.7 and more than comfortable using the full salary.
Yep. In fact, I'm kind of torn between two lineups. My number one Sim ROI lineup is 50K with 0 dupes. And I do look at it and I'm thinking in single entry with like 5,000, 10,000, looking at like, stuff like the 100 Spy. Like I think I'm going to roll this out in all these tournaments. It's a Xavier Worthy captain, 50K used up. I can't imagine I want to do a lot to change it here. And again, I'm probably in the large 150, which again is his question. I can't imagine that I'm going to eliminate anything unless there's just an outrageous, like we're talking double-digit dupes. I see 13 dupes for this one lineup at 49.9. I'm okay omitting that, where it is pretty clear cut, where you have the kicker, you have the defense from the KC side, you kind of play out everything where you get to just Saquon Barkley or just Jalen Hurts. Probably I'll stay away from those type of lineups if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, like if you have the Sims tool, look into some of the categories that aren't just, all right, dupes or, like simulated ROI. For example, I found one in here in just the top 150 that has 8 dupes, but it has a cash percentage of nearly 40%. So what the simulation is telling you, this lineup is going to be duplicated, but it's still not going to be played as often as it should be, given its chance of winning and cashing. And I mean, there's also approaches you can take within the tool. Let's say you want to play a little riskier. There are going to be more lineups just outside the 150 that are positively simulated for ROI. And you can sort by dupes. And then if you wanted all 0 dupes, you could just take the top 150, no dupes. Yeah, you'd be playing this a little looser. Your chance of going like broke on the slate would be a little higher, but you can absolutely do that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Things you love to see. Matt Kajeski analysis. We're going to miss it. Well, actually, we're not going to miss it that much because you're going to be right back in the college basketball streets, correct? That makes me happy.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot with college hoops.
Good. Darren Unger, $1.99. Priorities on FanDuel. The Saquon piece kind of throws things into flux. Talked about that a little bit. Going through my FanDuel lineups. Let me pull these back up because I had the wrong thing pulled up.
I've got mine. My top
Okay.
three are the QBs, and Hollywood, I think, is too cheap over there. He's a priority for me.
Yeah, Hollywood was definitely one that I had gotten a ton of over there as well. I think there's one contrarian piece too that, I mean, do we want to just bring up like our off the board, off the kilter type plays right from the get-go? I think the kickers as well over on FanDuel going to be a little bit of a priority for me. When you're only getting 5 lineup spots, some people don't want to be playing kickers as much as they maybe should at times, but I don't think that'll actually be an issue indoors. Everything here, I'll just say I'll do the same thing with you. Quarterbacks, and then the same thing we were talking about on DraftKings, getting away from some of the Saquon Barkley ownership. I'll probably play Saquon in single entry, and I'll probably stay away from him in large field. Like as much as the field that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still going to play Saquon. He's just not going to be like my highest owned captain.
Yep. We are looking at that the same way. We are so buried. It's unbelievable. But Anthony Masilli, member for 7 months, FanDuel MVPs and favorite contrarian flex plays. Thanks. You're so very welcome. Wanted to run all these questions together here. My favorite in terms of captain optimals that maybe are a little bit lower. I like the idea of AJ Brown. I know that he's a little bit overowned in the captain, but he's been extremely successful against man coverage throughout his career, especially this year. And, well, wouldn't you know it, Kansas City exclusively basically out there doing the man coverage thing. It's kind of one of those things, too, where if a team is trying to shut down Saquon, if they're finding success early in the run game, they're going to open up a shot or two for AJ Brown. And we are getting, I mean, think about these games that have been played in Philly. It's been terrible weather in a couple of these. I mean, we've had snow, we've had sleet, we've had, again, the first quarter shot out, and then second through fourth quarter in the Rams game, things just kind of, it just went completely sideways. Nobody could score. It was fumble-rooski everywhere. We're inside in the old Superdome. I feel a lot better about AJ Brown's potential of an upside, of winning upside there. And then I don't really see anything else outside of like Eagles defense, Chiefs defense. They're sub 1% in the captain, but I'm not going to make any kind of a case for it other than you're looking for the fluke touchdown and nobody else is going to do it. It's under-owned relative to what the potential optimal is, but it's still like 0.3% owned for a reason there. Do you have any favorite FanDuel MVPs that are not as owned? Obviously, Mahomes, I think, was both of our favorites for FanDuel.
Yeah, he is. And then once you get beyond that, I like Kelsey quite a bit. One of the biggest mismatches that the Chiefs should exploit, just on paper, is against linebackers for Philly. Kelsey, Noah Gray, as long as the Eagles just don't fully go out there and try to stop them, which I don't think they'll be able to. Chiefs have plenty of weapons. That's a mismatch the Chiefs should be able to exploit.
Einsteinium, $1.99. In the Sims, how many dupes are you allowing? It's not really a hard and fast rule for me. I'm kind of skimming through my top 150. And I'm eliminating, like, I'm looking at this one, that same lineup I talked about before, 16 dupes. See another one with 12 with 50K utilized. I'll probably eliminate that one as well out of the 10,000 pool that I have here. And then, I mean, that's probably all I'm going to do is kind of go through. And if they use the whole 50 and it's pretty straightforward how those lineups show up, I'll just remove it from the pool and I'll add something on the back half. Anything you're doing specifically for dupes?
I make very few changes to the Sims tool. I don't change salary, so that's on the low end and the top end. I don't change dupes. The tool is smarter than me at figuring out when these things are okay. For example, just like if a lineup is going to be played 10 times by the field, but it should be played 20 times by the field, given its win percentage and cash percentage, that's a really hard thing to figure out in your head. The Sims tool actually mathematically does this by generating a whole pool of lineups. It simulates the entire tournament on what's going to be played, what's not going to be played. That's just infinitely better than what my dumb brain can do by itself. So where I use the Sim tool to make tweaks is on the projection side, and that's solely looking for players that have uncertain roles. Maybe it's a role change, someone coming off an injury. And if you have a lean on that, you can adjust things slightly. But otherwise, like the tool is doing a ton of this work for you. You don't need to go in and double count it.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. God darn it. People like you.
It's not that I was, bad before the Sims tool, but I was making mistakes. I think a lot of people were making mistakes, so that sort of hit it. But like I used to not want to play kickers in Showdown, or at least not as a huge portion of my portfolio, but there are certain slates where you should do that. I was just taking a hard and fast rule, like, okay, I don't want kickers to be a massive part of my portfolio. I don't think they have the upside. Turns out that's not right. So it's like I was just making mistakes, and the Sims tools helped me correct a lot of them.
Speaking of portfolios, Portfolio EV, friends, code SB75, 75% off your first payment of Portfolio EV right now. This tool has just been hand over fist. I mean, it's just making money for people left and right over on the X streets. If you follow our friend G. Ehrenberg DFS, that is Greg Ehrenberg from the NBA streets and previously on this stream as well. If you're following my guy, ND_Joyce, that is Nathan Joyce here at Stokastic as well. You've seen these screenshots. And boy, oh boy, are they lovely. And I know Lofty's talked about it. I know Ben's talked about it, but let me talk to you about it, because one of the things that I feel like I made a mistake on early in my betting was not getting enough volume down on a daily basis across multiple bets. But it's hard to identify multiple bets when you're, when you're bottom up, when you're creating, when you're kind of throwing everything up. You might as well utilize the best market-based approach that exists in the entire industry. Yeah, bottom up, baby. Check it out. It is Portfolio EV. You can find all these screenshots over on Twitter on a daily basis. If you check out our account over at OddsShopper, if you are looking at everything on a day in, day out basis, it's kind of hard to overlook because people have been utilizing this tool and making money no matter where they live. If they have one sportsbook access, if that's just DraftKings in Maine or Oregon, whether that's multiple sportsbooks when you go to Arizona and you have everything at your discretion. And then, well, Fliff, Rebet. We have so many sportsbooks that are advantageous for you to take advantage of, even in great states like California, Texas, other places, Florida, where it's just hard rock. We can make you guys some money utilizing Portfolio EV. Check it out for the Super Bowl. I promise you won't be disappointed going forward. For the NBA, the NHL has been extremely profitable. We're back testing this tool, HROI, historical ROI, planted right there next to every selection so you can know how the tool has performed in those categories. So check it out, SB75. Would love to see you guys with those screenshots as well. All right, to the running back position we go. Oh, wait, we got a couple more super chats. Jim Parrish, $5. I have 37 entries in the millie on DraftKings. 13 captains too many? Well, you're spreading it out a little bit, but I will say this. One of my favorite things about utilizing the Sims tool is it's kind of gotten my little, you called it, I'll call it my monkey brain. I used to just be like, oh, I can't have more than like 2 or 3 captains in my 20 max. I don't want to get too thin, but then my number 1 sim ROI lineup, Xavier Worthy. My number 2, Saquon Barkley. My number 3, Patrick Mahomes. My number 4, Patrick Mahomes. My number 5, Dallas Goedert. My number 6, Saquon Barkley. My number 7, Travis Kelce. My number 8, AJ Brown. In my top 8 lineups, I think I just read off 5 captains, 5 different captains. 13 is just fine for 37 lineups.
It's almost just a risk tolerance question. Like I would ask yourself, if you have 13 captain Saquon Barkley lineups, or let's say you have every lineup Saquon Barkley captain, if he gets hurt in the first drive, how mad are you going to be? I'll be pretty pissed. My risk tolerance is a little low in that regard, so generally I'm trying to spread it a little bit more. On a showdown like this, you're actually just getting naturally a lot of different captains. So that's my personal approach, and it has nothing to even do with the slate. It's just like I will be on tilt the entire Super Bowl if that happens to me, and it would ruin my day.
People are saying, Matt, you are far from dumb. I would agree with them.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, chat.
You're welcome. Just, a little pick me up.
Is that quote I'm supposed to know?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Just wanted to have and I needed one more moment of silence, awkward silence on this show. I think everybody else did too. Did it feel good? It felt good, right?
That always does.
Breathe in the moment. And then I'll fuck off. Einsteinium, $1.99. What's a greasy game script that's actually possible? Ooh, that's always fun to think about. And, the double defense, double kicker is something that I don't think people have avoided here still in these kind of games. But I will say they are exponentially less likely. We did see a recent Super Bowl. What was it? Patriots, Rams, where I don't think I cashed one of 150 lineups. I can't remember a game that was more ridiculous than that one, but I'm going through my lineups here now and seeing if, okay, here's one. I've got a lineup with 47,800 that has both defenses and a pass catcher without its quarterback. I think that that's pretty grimy, but it makes sense because my captain is potentially just somebody that could catch a bunch of volume in Dallas Goedert. And then you're basically just looking for the grimiest type of game script where maybe he's the only touchdown scorer in the entire event, maybe catches 5 or 6 balls. He's pretty juiced on the over 4.5. That's been one surprising thing to watch in the marketplace as the week's gone on. He went from like 4.5 at like plus money to 4.5 minus 140, minus 145 here as the week's gone on. Pretty big move for like a 4.5 catch prop there for Dallas Goedert. But anything that you think in terms of a game script that you're looking at in your lineups that looks really extra grimy to help out our guy Einsteinium?
The grimiest one, it's not even that grimy, but no one's just talking about it. Largely because the game is a 48.5 total, but what if these defenses actually have success against the opposing quarterbacks? And it's not that crazy. Eagles, I think, are the best defense in the NFL. Mahomes honestly hasn't played that well most of the season. He's just been on an incredible run in the playoffs, which we've seen enough playoffs with the Chiefs and Super Bowls where maybe I just should expect that at this point. But still, this is arguably his toughest matchup all season long. And then on the other side, the Chiefs have a phenomenal defense. I think there may be a slight step behind the Eagles, but Hurts gets in his own way all the time. So if this comes in below the total, which I don't think most of the field is playing for, that could be a way to get you unique. The one thing I'll say on that, kind of even just pushing back against it, and the reason I don't want to play a lot of it, one, the total is extremely high, but these defenses at 4K and 4.2 on DraftKings, we have a ton of options in that range, or just below, or maybe just above, that are coming in with higher projections, and sometimes lower ownership. So to me, when you put all of that together, it's not exactly a game script I want to play for, but I could see that angle if you wanted to do something crazy.
Love. We got 19 minutes. Let's jump to running back here and starting on the Kansas City side. Well, is there anything to say outside of Saquon Barkley? Like we're making a calculated underneath the field type play on Saquon where we're just hoping he doesn't. I mean, the rushing prop's gone down from like 115 to 111, so I'm going to miss the boat on that. Sadly, I should have probably bet that at minus one, or not at 115, the rushing yard prop that is starting to come back down. Maybe it gets pushed back up and I can take advantage before kickoff, but I doubt it at this point. He's just a good play. If you feel as though he's the guy that you would prefer as opposed to anybody else, awesome. There's not much to say. I think he's a phenomenal play. He's been phenomenal up against every good defense still this season. He has massive game-breaking upside, but he's just really expensive, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah, in cash games, low-risk contests, he's arguably the first guy in my lineup. In larger field stuff, you need to make some decisions. The case for him, and I mean, it's probably only getting better with the 2 weeks because we saw the offensive line injuries to Philly. They should be healthier given the rest. And his role could even be like closer to 100% of snaps, given the magnitude of the game. So not really somebody I want to fade. It's just a matter of, is he going to be my highest owned player? And the answer to that is no. And it's largely just the dynamics with the field.
Exactly. Kenneth Gainwell, I'm assuming he's good to go. The concussion, the knee, he doesn't have an injury designation. I think he's good to go. I don't see myself getting a ton of Kenneth Gainwell, but I'll share or two of him there. Not a captain, I can tell you that much. 3,400 for Kenneth Gainwell. You're trying to thread a little bit of a needle there. He's had a couple catches in these divisional rounds, Green Bay, LA, Washington. He had 3 total catches, 2 against Washington there in garbage time, but it's going to be the Saquon show so long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, he's just too expensive at 3,400. Like, he's more likely to play 0 snaps and have a good game. You need an injury.
Well, let's talk Kareem Hunt, because this is definitely the piece that, from a betting perspective, has kind of buoyed my entire playoffs. I've played a lot of Kareem Hunt, every single one of these slates, and the tide really turned. 58% of snaps there against Buffalo last time out. Only 15% for Samaje Perine, so third down duty was pretty limited. 10 total snaps for him. Isaiah Pacheco, 19 total snaps, 29% of them on the offensive side. Double the workload for Kareem Hunt, double the fun. That's the statement of the greatment of Kareem Hunt that fizzled out.
I think he's completely fine to play. He's priced a little. I mean, kind of just a mega dynamic of the slate is it's loose. You could argue everyone on DraftKings specifically is maybe a couple hundred too cheap, with the exception of a few players. But I think that applies to Kareem Hunt given the split we've seen recently. And it's the same question we've been asking. Is there any chance this goes back to a 50-50 or Pacheco takes his role? You can't question the efficiency between them. And it's not even like Hunt has been an efficient player. It's just Pacheco's been so bad. I think we have to lean into this. Everything the workload has shown us is that Kareem Hunt is the back they're going to use in high leverage situations. Goal line, most of their early down work. P. Ryan has this weird pass protection role, so he's going to get his 15% of snaps no matter what. But the fantasy high value touches are going to Hunt. At his price, I think he's fine to use.
Yeah, he's going to be somebody I have a very aggressive stance on FanDuel especially. Playing over there, it is going to be a lot of Kareem Hunt, sub 20% ownership for him there. That is not enough for the guy that I expect to be playing more than half the snaps at the running back position, barring injury for Kansas City. Plus, he's just outperformed Isaiah Pacheco for the last 2 months, last 2.5 months. He's just been the better back. And I'm getting the better back at relatively tame ownership on both sides, sitting right around 20% in the utility. I can't make a ton of cases for him to be my captain, just because, again, you're threading a very tight needle, 2 touchdowns, maybe 80, 100, like a crazy outlier type rushing volume. And yeah, you could maybe break one big play, catches a screen, something of that nature. But Kareem Hunt, just somebody that I want to play the running backs that are on the field more. No real trace amounts of Carson Steele for me. No real trace amounts of Samaje Perine. It's basically just Hunt for me on that side of the ball as well. Do you have any other running back you're taking a shot on the Kansas City side?
I could see a handful of Pacheco. Absolutely no Perine. He's just pass blocker, and Carson Steele should not be playing today. If he's active, I think it would be a mistake, but he might be, just not clicking him.
All right. Well, let's get to the wide receiver and tight end here, where we're going to just lump the pass catchers in together because it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you could hit that like button for us, because we're about to do our final, 15 minute breakdown of this slate here of the entire NFL fantasy season. We can't thank you enough. I'll let Matt do the sign off for us, but wanted to just say how much I appreciate you guys hanging out with us every single time. And a lot of you that might be listening to this after the fact, again, this is kind of the nature of it. We're going to go hang out at our respective Super Bowl parties, but we're excited to see you guys back here, same time, same place, come September next year. Hopefully you check out the great NBA and MLB content we have going at Stokastic. Well, we're waiting through the summer months. I'm sure we'll have Makajeski throwing out some nice best ball rankings, which worked out pretty darn well for me overall in the 2024 NFL season. Looking forward to 2025. But let's go to the wide receiver and tight end positions here. Pass catchers. I want to start with Philly, actually, because A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. There's kind of some push and pull here. Dallas Goedert, 7 catches last time out. We really did see that maybe it was a little bit more weather-centric. That was something I really pushed for coming off of the Rams game, where we saw low ownership, I thought, on Jalen Hurts for just a 4-game slate. Everybody wanted to play Allen. Everybody wanted to play Mahomes. I wanted to play Jalen Hurts, and wouldn't you know it, he has 3 rushing touchdowns. That worked out nicely, but I'm hoping, out of everything, that Dallas Goedert continues this role that he's been on. He played in that last week regular season finale just to get himself a little bit of work with the Giants there. 4 catches in that. He's now had 4 catches in 4 consecutive since coming back from injury. He continues to be out there way more than, not that you're expecting Calcaterra to be out there as much, but Dallas Goedert, man, his yak ability in man against the Kansas City Chiefs, he is a big part of what they need to have success doing. And I'm playing a ton of him, A.J. Brown, and despite the fact that it's a Kellen Moore offense, we've just seen Devonta Smith. It's been a little bit it's been tougher sledding for him here of late. Maybe this is the spot where he goes completely nutty again, but I hate that I am just off of Devonta Smith here today, and I'm just jamming A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. That is what is showing up for me in the Sims right now. What is showing up for you between these 3, Matt?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same on what you mentioned. And it's hard to call Devonta Smith anything but a disappointment. And it's not that he's played poorly. There's just a lot of high expectations on this player. I mean, just going back to best ball and regular fantasy, he's getting drafted in the 2nd round. He's never lived up to that. He's a productive role player, 2nd or 3rd pass catcher on your team. But parlaying this forward into just the projections today, we have Dallas Goedert projected for more raw points than him at a cheaper price, significantly cheaper price. And that honestly works better with your builds if you're playing the studs. It's a lot easier to get to the big three with Goddard than it is the big three with Devontae Smith. So he's sort of just a forgotten man, and he's coming in with some ownership. So it's not like we're just fading this completely low-owned player. He's above 30% when you combine captain and flex together. So the way it's shaking out right now, I think he's a pretty intelligent fade. There will be some lineups that show up with him, but he's definitely not a priority. I think the more interesting question is up at the top with A.J. Brown. I was a little surprised to see the separation between him and Kelsey. It's very narrow between them. I thought we might get Kelsey with a projection, 1 or 2 points clear of A.J. Brown, but that wasn't the case. So I'm a little higher on A.J. Brown than I came into the day thinking I would be, but I don't hate that. When you have these push and pulls between the offenses, like Kansas City, much better passing team, higher props. The team that's slightly favored, so their team total's a little higher, but it's more spread. When you have Philly, the ball's going to A.J. Brown first, Goddard or Devontae Smith second and third, and that's it. Dotson's not used. Saquon Barkley does catch some balls out of the backfield, but it's not all that significant. So you do have more condensed targets for the Eagles, which I thought might come in a little under-owned, but I'm not sure it will now that we have this projection so close to Kelsey.
With you. A.J. Brown, man, it's going up against Justin Watson should be a lot of fun. I mean, Trent McDuffie as well, probably be mixing in over there. It's a lot of man from Kansas City. A.J. Brown, traditionally, that is the times you want to be clicking on his name. And I get why we're projecting it that way. I think that it definitely makes some sense. And obviously, I'm not shying away from both of them here, especially when you take into account an underweight utility ownership for me on Saquon Barkley. I will not be fading him entirely in the captain spot. I will not be fading him entirely in the utility either, but definitely strongly underweight. And as such, A.J. Brown, Travis Kelce, I'll have pretty decent stands on. The ownership, though, for me, you look at like the utility ownership for A.J. Brown, 28.5 for him, 36 and change for Travis Kelce. I'm going to click on the A.J. Brown in one lineup between the two. Do you have a preference in one lineup, either or?
I'm debating that right now because honestly, I thought Kelsey would be a little more owned. A.J. Brown's a little higher than I thought he would be, but I still kind of think I just prefer A.J. Brown in a vacuum.
Yep, I do too. Let's finish out the Kansas City pass catching side. We have Jahan Dotson, less than a 5% target share in games he's been active this season for Philly. It's just an absurd thing. Of course, he has like first touchdown I can't remember which game that it was. The first playoff game that they had right from the get-go. It was so unbelievably annoying that he ends up getting that there because I actually had it circled as something that was positive EV and I didn't bet it. That's usually how it works. But I'm going through other pass catchers. Grant Calcaterra. Any interest in some of these like really ancillary Philly spots? Because we're going to get to a lot of these ancillary Kansas City Chiefs guys. I just don't really find myself getting onto the Philly side with these unknowns.
I think you could play Calcaterra. He plays like 35 to 55% of the snaps given their personnel packages. And it makes sense. Like he's just better than any third wide receiver Philly's going to use. So I don't hate using him. Dotson is not someone I'm particularly interested in. Even if he plays a little more than Calcaterra, he's just so bad. It doesn't really make any sense. And Calcaterra is one case. You actually do save the 600. I'll just take that money. Otherwise, there's not a ton of interest in other pass catchers. You might see like a snap or two here or there for like a Johnny Wilson or something. That doesn't really pique my interest with some of the other value options we can have. So I am playing the Millie Maker today. That's where I'm going to get the Calcaterras of the world, but it's not going to be a large portion.
Well, let's go over to the Kansas City side because we have seen Xavier Worthy up in the 80s since about week 14 in terms of snap percentage. And Marquise Brown, 65% of the snaps in the two playoff games here for Kansas City. You know that's really had taken in a backseat? DeAndre Hopkins at 18% last week, 31% the week before, and 17% for Justin Watson. But there's a glaring guy that I am omitting from this grouping. Juju Smith-Schuster played 58% of the snaps last week. What planet am I on? Why did Juju play that much relative to DeAndre Hopkins? And if that's going to be the case, and you believe that it's going to be, and I don't really have a reason to think that he won't be the guy who's out snapping him there, Is playing like Juju Smith-Schuster in 45% of my lineups the thing I'm actually going to do with a 2K Juju?
Probably. I mean, I'm not the coach of the Chiefs for a reason. I think Juju's horrible. But at some point, you just have to like put your hands up in the air and be like, look, Andy Reid knows what he's doing. I am a bozo who watches the game on television on Sundays. So, I mean, like, what are we going to do? Not play Juju at this price tag? And it's not like the 58% is a blip on the radar. He's basically playing 50% of the snaps or thereabouts every single week. You have to go all the way back to what, week 14 to find a game where DeAndre Hopkins played more snaps? It's just not likely to occur on this slate. Now, is the gap going to be 38-12, or is it going to be closer to like the 21-16 we saw the week prior? I don't have the answer to that, but I do think the safer option today is just hold your nose and play a little bit more Juju than D-Hop. And he's cheap. So honestly, like he doesn't even need to be the guy that makes or breaks your lineup. 3 catches, 45 yards would be just fine out of Juju. So I think you have to plug your nose and just play him.
Yeah, they added the third wide receiver out there a little bit more there with Juju, 41% to 58%. And that trimmed away a little bit from Noah Gray, 57% of the snaps the first time out of the gate up against Houston. And then against Buffalo, 44% there. A little bit better defense there. Difference in philosophy, I suppose. They also weren't up a million right from the get-go. I see Noah Gray as somebody who's also interesting. So going back to the conversation we had before where I was saying I don't love the idea of threading the needle with those main 3 studs going like Hurts, Mahomes, Saquon, and then punting to Gray and Juju. I just feel like it's too easy. And I think most people who are looking at what I'm looking at are going to probably click on the Juju Gray type combination there at the bottom. But boy, am I going to be rotating through these guys in large field. Travis Kelce, we've already kind of addressed when we talked about A.J. Brown, but how do you feel about Noah Gray? Because he might be the guy that, between him and Juju Smith-Schuster, who do you prefer?
Juju, don't feel good about it. And it's
Same.
One, a pricing thing. You save $800 by going down to Juju. I think he's more likely to see more targets. Like Gray's in the field for a lot of different purposes. He could be blocking. Juju's largely not doing that. So it's thin, but I think it's just slightly a little safer playing Juju.
All right. We got Calvarez, Susu, and Dotson for sleepers and 1 defense in each other lineup. That is a $5 super chat from Jim Parrish. Trying to understand what we're talking about here. So I'm assuming Calcutta. Yep. Okay. That's what I had a feeling of. So Calcaterra and Dotson for sleepers and 1 defense in each other lineup. Don't mind that, but here's my thing is I'm basically going to be playing overweight Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to be overweight Noah Gray. Probably going to be around the field or under on Calcaterra. And I definitely am going to be under field on Jahan Dotson. Unless Dotson catches a touchdown, I think I'm going to be okay. And I'm probably just going to take the snap share at a little bit more ownership and then just mix around with my lineups there. But anything that you think about as far as like putting a defense with those 2 specifically, because you're going to have you're running into the same exact builds when you start punting with like 2 or 3 spots in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be careful because you can play Saquon, Mahomes, and Hurts pretty easily if you have a construction like that. So maybe you just pivot to an A.J. Brown. And this is assuming you're playing the Millie. If you're playing something smaller, by all means, I think playing like a defense and a Calcaterra, let's just say, will be pretty contrarian by itself. But yeah, the only thing I worry about is just that construction should be a little more popular than maybe we think.
I worry that it's going to be this cat that keeps showing up in the Sims for me for what it's worth. Peyton Hendershot. I mean, Peyton Hendershot is like in a lot of my top simmed lineups here. I mean, is Peyton Hendershot somebody who's sneaking in for you as well? Because like out of the $200 famine that we have down here at the bottom end of the spectrum here, I think he's probably the best $200 punt. I can't really make a case for anybody else. Remigio had that, number of targets there against Denver. Well, you had Carson Wentz at quarterback and nobody else out there. So Remigio played 5 snaps, I think it was last week. Was it 5 total? Let me double check that. Yeah, 3 snaps total, 5% of the offensive snaps. Congratulations for seeing the field, Nico, but not going to be for me. Is Peyton Hendershot somebody you're getting to at all?
A handful, like under 5%. He's $200. He's probably going to play like 5 snaps. I mean, he's the avenue that gets you to more studs than maybe you think you could get normally. bleak range. I don't have a lot of interest in anyone down here. I mean, like you could spend $400 on Justin Watson. I think he'd be a better play than Hendershot straight up. So it's not an area I think I'm going to spend much time on.
Well, the area we generally don't spend much time on during the regular season is defense. It is Matt's favorite position that exists, and he just simply doesn't want to give up all of his secrets. I'm lying. It's a ridiculous thing that it still exists, but it's going to exist in Showdown, and it should. So for what it's worth, matters more today than normal. And of course, the kickers. We go from outdoor environments into indoor environments, and well, I got to think that that's pretty useful going to the Superdome for both these guys, especially Jake Elliott, who apparently can't make over 50-yarders or any field goals here lately. And then we've got Harrison Butker, who I think most women in the kitchen are not the biggest fan of, but I will say this. Harrison Butker is going to be somebody showing up in my lineups with an 8.5 kicking points prop that I'm looking at every single sports book here today. That's a pretty big number. His 1.5 field goals made is like minus 180 now. 180. It's a great darts reference, but despite, we're going to round out our show with this. Kickers and defense, Matt. What is your game plan for them today?
Likely to end up with a little more kickers than defenses. Main reason is we have a high total. When you expect more points, that comes directly at the expense of your defense. The price gap is not drastic between them, and as we already laid out, it's pretty easy to play these guys, and you can still get quite a bit of studs by doing that. With that said, I love talking about defenses in the context of Showdown. It's a lot more impactful than main slate. I think Eagles defense is interesting. Chiefs are fine too, but when you just talk about the angles of this game, one of the bigger mismatches, I think, is the Eagles front seven against that Chiefs offensive line. They've been papering over a lot of errors they made in the offseason. They have a guard playing tackle. They haven't always been able to find answers there. Mahomes being such a wizard navigating the pocket, honestly, has been one of the biggest answers they have. But that unit's going to have their hands full with the pass rush. Jalen Carter in the middle disrupting things. And, you know, on the other side, like the Kansas City is a fine pass rush, especially with Chris Jones. But the Eagles have an awesome offensive line that should be healthier given the 2 weeks. So if one of those units wrecks this game, I think it's the Eagles. Still, not the most likely scenario, so I will be a little bit overweight to the kickers in comparison.
Yeah, I'm on under a quarter sack for George Karlaftis today up against Lane Johnson, for what it's worth. Somebody much smarter than me got me on that, so I appreciate them for throwing that one my way. But Jordan Mailata on one side, Lane Johnson on the other. Cam Jurgens expected to be back here at center. I mean, what can I say? Like, this is the best offensive line in football, and I do expect kind of the same thing as you, where I think that that's definitely going to be if there is one mismatch of how things work out, I don't think you'll have to have Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Again, the passing volume should be down potentially, and if they find success there, this game might look a little bit different, but defensively, I'm with you. I do think the Eagles defense, number one DVOA for the last couple months, is the more interesting grouping. They had a pretty cake puff schedule. Wasn't sure what to make of it, but I will say, throughout the entire playoffs, I've been very impressed by them. They just get after it, and they really don't have to generate pressure, and they still find ways to be successful. That was actually a really good breakdown from Mina Kimes that I saw over on X, so don't even want to take credit for that. But Cooper DeJean, Iowa Hawkeyes, you had a good one. You had a good one. Glad that he's gone from there. But guys, I think that kind of does it for us. Let's recap for the people, Matt. Your favorite large field captains, your top 2 for today's Super Bowl.
Honestly, I think it's okay to play Mahomes, given everything we've seen with the Sims tool. If you want to get a little crazier, I like Xavier Worthy quite a bit at the captain spot for a little bit more of an off-the-board play. I don't think you need to get too much cuter than that.
All right. I will say AJ Brown. I mean, I really like the idea of AJ Brown along with Hurts and potentially removing Saquon. I'll probably still have Mahomes looking through some of these lineups that I've got. Dallas Goedert, that's the other one that I just think looks awesome. He's in a lot of my top ROI sim lineups, and I think he should be. There's volume coming his direction. He's gonna. I would love to see him break off South Dakota State's finest, Dallas Goedert, break off a big play in the Super Bowl here today. Your most uncomfortable fades for today's Super Bowl?
That's a hard one. Devontae Smith.
Yeah, it's mine. I'm terrified. If Devonta Smith has a good game, I'm in major trouble. And if Saquon ends up being utility, just absolute must have, but not captain, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble as well. So I'm kind of looking for that right outcome here for Saquon to either fail, or I just hope he goes completely nuclear because I'm about the field in the captain ownership. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you, Jordan Klein, for hanging out. Our last NFL Live Before Lock officially in the books. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist and go follow my friend Matt Gajeski, Matt_Gajeski over on X. Lots of other sports we're going to be covering here throughout the couple of months that you'll be without us in the NFL streets. But Matt, round it out for us. Any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Thank you all for being with us for a full season. I know a lot of you are routine listeners. This is part of your Sunday morning, afternoon, Mondays, Thursdays, whatever it is. And it truly is a blessing to be able to do this for you guys. I know myself, Eric, everyone on the team. It's a pleasure being able to come out here and talk to you guys every single week about the game we all love. Hopefully make some money, have some fun, have some laughs. Erica razzed me a little bit about not knowing movie references, but it's all in good fun. And it really has been an amazing year getting to do this. So just thank you all for showing up every week. It means the world to us.
You're my wagon.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Matt is the wagon. He's the guy that I have ridden from Independence Hall all the way across the Oregon Trail without getting dysentery. Go us. Thank you, Matt. Another year in the books. I'm Eric Lindquist. We'll see you guys. Same place, 2025.